Seafoam kissing the hull, whispers of rebellion. Grandma's belly full of dreams, loaded like a felon. Che with the stogie, fire in his lungs. Fidel's beard catching stars, sermons off his tongue. Night wraps the boat, a velvet conspirator. The moon takes notes, a celestial auditor. Shadows in the tropics, plotting out the game. History's inked in sweat, revolution's flame.
Grandma dreams, drifting through the night, carrying the weight of the people's fight. Through the tide, through the storm, they scheme, waking the world with the grandma dreams. Grandma dreams, drifting through the night, carrying the weight of the people's fight. Through the tide, through the storm, they scheme, waking the world with the grandma dreams.
Fetish the gold, cracking like old porcelain. Yankee dollars drowning in a hurricane. Jungle's the cathedral, machetes hum the hymn. Guerrilla choir sing, lights getting dim. Cigars burning slow, thoughts sharper than machetes. Each leaf wrapped in hope, each puff deadly. Radio crackles, the word spreads like fever. The island's heartbeat, a revolution believer. Echoes of the past, splintered like a mass. The people's fists rising, freedom's forecast. K-ball, hey, yeah. Seafoam kissing the hull, whispers of rebellion. Grandma's belly full of dreams, loaded like a felon. Che with the stogie, fire in his lungs. Fidel's beard catching stars, sermons off his tongue. Night wraps the boat, a velvet conspirator. The moon takes notes, a celestial auditor. Shadows in the tropics, plotting out the game. History's inked in sweat, revolution's flame.
Grandma dreams, drifting through the night, carrying the weight of the people's fight. Through the tide, through the storm, they scheme, waking the world with the grandma dreams. Grandma dreams, drifting through the night, carrying the weight of the people's fight. Through the tide, through the storm, they scheme, waking the world with the grandma dreams.
Fetish the gold, cracking like old porcelain. Yankee dollars drowning in a hurricane. Jungle's the cathedral, machetes hum the hymn. Guerrilla choir sing, lights getting dim. Cigars burning slow, thoughts sharper than machetes. Each leaf wrapped in hope, each puff deadly. Radio crackles, the word spreads like fever. The island's heartbeat, a revolution believer. Echoes of the past, splintered like a mass. The people's fists rising, freedom's forecast. K-ball, hey, yeah.
By the light of the lanterns, they taught how to read. In the hills of the Sierra, they planted a seed. Young hands held the books while rifles stood near. In the shadow of struggle, they buried their fear. Oh, the words lit the night like stars in the sky. Truth in their hearts they refuse to live a lie. With Chan for Dale, they rose from the dust for the people they serve and freedom they trust. Down in the valleys, the rich took their fill, while the poor broke their backs and bent to the mill. But the ink on the page, it started a flame, and the songs of the campesinos called out the names. The letters and lines, they carried the fight through the jungles and plains toward the dawn's new light. Oh, the words lit the night like stars in the sky. Truth in their hearts, they refuse to live a lie. With Chan for Dale, they rose from the dust for the people they serve and freedom they trust. Now the ghost of Batista's towers crumble and fade, while the voices of the teachers still echo in the glade. The power of a pencil, the might of a pen, they broke down the walls and they rose again.
In the cornfield haze where the tractors hum, a thinker stands where the ideas come, with a straw in his mouth and a book in his hand. Midwestern Marx takes a radical stand. Oh, he's plowed the fields of the mind, seeds of change in the heart you'll find, dancing through the night with sparks in the dark. Feel the rhythm of Midwestern March.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to an extra special episode of the Eddie Liger Power Hour. I am joined today by my comrade and Midwestern Marx co-founder, Carlos Garrido. You all know that means it's going to be a special show. Always a good time when we have Carlos on. And there's a lot to talk about today. There's a lot to discuss. Something happened today that made me just, it really ground my gears, as Noah would say, and it makes me want to rip the mask off of the American left for young people. Because I remember how confused I was when I first got into the left. You know, I was trying to think about things pragmatically and strategically, assuming that everybody had the shared goal of bringing the American working class to a position of political power so that we can end imperialism and transform capitalism into a system that actually works rationally for the people. But the deeper I got into the left, the more I realized that that's not what it's about for a lot of people. It's about virtue signaling, moralizing, trying to make yourself appear as morally superior than others, trying to knock others down by nitpicking mistakes that they've made in the past or things that they've done that you disagree with. And none of this helps the working class. The working class continues to drown in debt and get screwed as we, go about our work here in the imperial hegemon. The people of Palestine continue to get bombed and starved. Your taxes continue to be sent to Ukraine in this NATO-backed, Nazi-influenced proxy war against Russia. And we have these leftists fighting on Twitter and, canceling Jackson Hinkle for things that he said years ago. And what I'm going to show you today is it's not just petty individual personalities, but this is institutional, right? This is ingrained within the institutions that make up the American left. And to be honest with you, the Becker family of the Party for Socialism and Liberation is right at the center of that. They are one of these gatekeeping institutions profiting off of the growing movement for socialism and anti-imperialism while gatekeeping young and exciting new anti-imperialists who are just entering the game within the last few years like Jackson Hinkle. And I'm tired of it. A few years ago, I would have said that we should work together with these people. But what I've learned is that they will not allow that. They will not work together with us, whether it's because of the vibes that we give off, whether it's because of genuine theoretical disagreements that they have, or whether it's because of identity politics. They don't want to work together and get shit done on behalf of the working class. And maybe Vijay Prashad was getting over that and deciding that he did actually want to start getting some shit done. But he got a call from the Beckers, the people at the top. We all know that's what happened, but we'll get into that more in depth here soon. But you got anything you want to say, Carlos, to start the show?
I'll say it after the intro.
Sounds good. We will get right into it after our official intro.
High Sheriff Hazard is a hard man to be. High Sheriff is his only plan. He digs through pockets, takes what he can, for he's High Sheriff Hazard. He caught me one evening and here's what he said. You look like
All right, we got a stacked chat room today. I see North Star Radio in the chat. What's up, brother? Great to have you here. Iowa Worker, one of my comrades here in the great corn state. Got some comrades from Cyprus and Beijing. Very cool. And I also see Dustin mentioned that my TikTok about Venezuela was showed on the Jimmy Dore show tonight. So I believe that you have to be a member to watch Jimmy's live stream, but hopefully they'll clip that and put it on their YouTube channel soon so we can react to it. But shout out to Jimmy and the crew. Thank you for sharing my video. I hope you found it informational. But yeah, I'll pass it over to Carlos now.
Yeah, it's been an interesting last few days. I saw the interview that VJ did with Jackson. I thought that it was pretty clear that in terms of content, in terms of political alignments, it should have been evident to everyone watching that there's a lot greater political alignments than what is usually conceived of. You and I talked about this quite a bit after that one of the things that becomes evident to people who watch that interview and ask themselves, well, why then is there so much animosity from these traditional gatekeeping leftist institutions, as Comrade Haas is fond of saying? Why is there so much animosity against ACP if in terms of geopolitical positions, there's agreements, even in terms of how we think about the US, there are some agreements. One of the things that VJ said in that interview, which we've been saying since the beginning of the Institute, is that America's a big fucking country. There's going to be regional differences in culture. And those are things that any sort of fighting organization for the working class has to be able to acclimatize itself to. The party in general has to be acclimatized to the national conditions in the US. It has to have a national form in its struggle. But various chapters in different regions have to also fall in line with the specific regional realities and cultural realities of those areas. We do this very well in our party. All of our chapters very much try to embody the best of the traditions from their specific regions of the country. This was something that VJ said in the interview. So you come out of that interview and you're like, how is there any antagonism between these people if at least at the surface level of the positions that they have, there's so much agreement? So I hope that led people to reflect, especially with the tweet that came out today, that it's not about any serious disagreement in terms of political positions. There's more in common than there is in difference. There's stuff going on in the background, institutionalized, as you said in your opening comments, that are explicitly trying to prevent any sense of unity. And not only any sense of unity, any sense of establishing the American Communist Party as a party that is serious about what it's been doing for the last year, and a party whose the people that are associated with it are serious and committed. Even if there's disagreements, that's perfectly fine. But what that interview would have done, which is why VJ ended up getting the call, is showing to this whole host of people who have been forced because of cancel culture and the rumor mill and the institutions with a whole lot of money and bread behind them that have pushed this out to cancel out the ACP as untouchable. It would have forced them to reflect and say, maybe some of these things that I've been led to believe without ever having any evidence before me, maybe some of this is false, and maybe I should give a better faith assessment of the ACP. Maybe I should judge them on the basis of their merit. That's a situation that the Beckers cannot have. Of course they can't. So they had to give Mr. VJ the call. And look, I know that the institutional basis of this is deeper than just VJ, but as a scholar myself, where's your spine, man? Where is your spine? Everyone can actively see you say one thing in the interview and then completely backtrack it. Say that you're against Fed jacketing, you called it purity politics. I wonder where the hell that was popularized at. But you say with one side of your mouth that you're against it, and then with another, you completely fold. And I wonder what's that pressure that made you fold? Was it your connections? Was it the relationships that you had at a personal level with the Beckers? Is it the institutional funds that you share in common that allow you to do all the traveling and all the stuff that you're able to do with the Tricontinental Institute and the other institutions? Where's your spine? If you have the spine, supposedly, to fight against the whole system of capitalist imperialism, why don't you have the spine to say, I'm not going to let these young people who are busting their fucking balls with no fucking money behind them, with no institutional support, with nothing but literally just sheer grit, getting ahead, radicalizing tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people, especially Hinkle, who's reached millions and millions of people. Not long ago, he was reaching around 100 million every single day on Twitter. Why not give them a chance? Why not give them why so much generational resentment against younger people who just found a way, because of their attuneness to digital media, to get ideas out there in a way that reaches more people than you?
Exactly. And I'll tell you what, I've never said much of anything about these people. I have made the most couched critiques, the most soft critiques of PSL in the world, because as Alex Rickel says here, really hits the nail on the head. There are some decent folks in PSL. There are folks in my, TikTok audience who are in PSL because they see it as the closest thing to a Marxist-Leninist party in America, which isn't true anymore because of the ACP. So it's time to switch over. But for that reason, I have been so nice to these guys, so friendly to these guys. I mean, VJ, when our party was formed, when the ACP was formed, he condemned us, right? He made this tweet about how you need to have candlelight in order to be a true Marxist. And we don't, we have computers instead of candles, so we're not real Marxists like him. And we brushed that aside and said, okay, go your own way, VJ. And then when you're ready to come back and have a conversation about the issues which we're 99% in agreement on, the door is always open. And he talked to Jackson, which is our largest media personality here at the ACP. But for those of you who don't understand what actually happened, like Donkey Danny says, it seemed very weird because he was so kind to Jackson on the show. They had such a nice conversation. What happened is that there's this family. There's this family with the last name Becker, and they own PSL, right? This is something I've never said publicly before, but this is the straw that broke the camel's back. I'm just going to tell you guys how it is. This is how it is. There is this family of Beckers, led by Brian Becker mainly, who own PSL. The PSL is the Becker show. And guess where the dues that PSL members pay get funneled to? Right to the top, which is filled with a whole bunch of fucking Beckers. Okay? And yeah, they have good positions on imperialism sometimes. They have marches that, are about issues that we agree with. But this is the role that they play institutionally within the left. You have this anti-imperialist scholar, Vijay Prashad, who I've admired since I got into the left, right? His books were a huge part of my political development 5 or 6 years ago. You have this guy starting to build a bridge with the American Communist Party, all these young Marxist-Leninist communists who are trying to bring a real Marxist-Leninist movement to America and learning from all the communists around the world in the global south, which is Vijay Prashad's main thing, right? Jackson Hinkle is traveling around the world, meeting with all these anti-imperialists, which is Vijay's main thing, the main thing that he tells people to do and the main thing that he writes about, right? He's also been a great scholar of the non-aligned movement and things like that. But Jackson is doing exactly what VJ says that you should do. And then when a bridge forms, when these two want to unify and work together for the causes that we all care about, fucking Brian Becker comes in, makes a phone call and says, oh, no, you can't talk to this guy. He said mean things about us. Oh, no, we can't have unity. Let me burn the bridge. That is the role that these people play, and it's so disgusting when you consider how much money they're making off of the American anti-imperialist movement. All the dues that get funneled into your hands. You're fucking grifting off of socialism and anti-imperialism, and that's the real difference between us and PSL. We lose money from this. We dump all of our own money into the party. Right? I would be willing to live homeless and on the streets for no money if that's what I had to do to maintain my principles. I give a fuck about fighting imperialism and elevating the American working class to a place of political power. These guys are all lip service while they have fucking degenerate parties and collect people's dues monies behind the scenes and call people on the phone when they start building bridges to try and tear it down over petty personal issues. Well, guess what? Your fucking time using Marxism and using the left as a social club for you and your academic PMC friends is over. We are bringing Marxism to the masses, to the working class. We're no longer going to allow you to use Marxism to gatekeep and have your little social club with all your PMCs and your academics and not let anybody unify and actually fight for what fucking matters. It's over. And that's what these people hate the most, is we're making their little social club impure. We're bringing the masses into this movement, this revolutionary movement, who maybe don't have, all the perfect ideas according to these university academics. And when Vijay Prashad tries to do what he actually says in his books that you should do and build bridges with other anti-imperialists, the fucking Beckers come in to ruin it. And I wouldn't be so pissed if they weren't making so much money grifting off of the socialist movement for so long. So yeah, I respect some of the people in PSL. I respect some of the educational work that they've done, not what the Beggars have done, what others have done. But I do not respect this kind of institutional gatekeeping by one fucking family at the top, as if they should be the arbiters of who gets to be a communist in the US. No, we're done with it. We're bringing actual working class people into the communist movement. Cry about it. Say they're impure, right? And with time, your little social club that you use to grift and grow your bank account is going to be completely overshadowed by the real movement of history and the American working class.
And the audacity that a lot of these people have to call us grifters. Us, the people whose events are basically paid for out of the pockets of leadership because we have no money. The people who for an extremely long time took absolutely no dues from their members because we don't want to do the same thing that every other organization has been doing in the left, which has brought absolutely no results. The people that have literally taken the brave initiative to start having nothing, and have been able to build more than any other leftist organization has built in decades. The work that we are doing with Dreya's truckers is more important than any of those fucking marches that they have done, that did dick in order to get us out of Iraq, that did dick in order to stop the genocide of the Palestinians, that did dick in order to stop the proxy war against Russia. None of those marches have done concretely anything. The work that we're doing with the Dreya's truckers, that are the pressure point of capital, in the United States, is tenfold times more important than the shit that they've been doing for the decades that they've been around, with the hundreds of millions of dollars that they have behind them. With nothing, we have built in 1 year something that they have not been able to in decades. And that's why there's resentment. Because they know that as soon as the time keeps passing, they're not going to be able to keep the people's eyes covered. For only so long can you keep the people's eyes covered. Pretty soon you'll start seeing people question, why is it that we keep doing marches, standing next to fucking Lockheed Martin and Raytheon and all these fucking corporations in these pride marches, when the ACP is organizing truckers around the country? When the ACP is salting in order to organize Amazon workers and organizing sanitation workers and key workers in sectors all across the country with no fucking resources. What would we be able to do if we had even 1/10 of their fucking resources? Pretty soon, people are going to fucking look at the world, and no longer are their fingers going to be able to cover their sight. They're going to say, maybe everything we've been told about the ACP is bullshit. And with that, maybe everything we've been told about what you're doing is bullshit. That's why they have to attack us in the way that they do. That's why they have to attack us in the way that they do internationally. But guess what, friends? Just like internationally, a lot of your old friends are no longer buying your bullshit. They're seeing who is actually reaching the American people, and not just the same sector of 100 cats that already know what the correct position on Venezuela and Nicaragua and Cuba, etc. should be. Just like the international friends are getting smart enough to realize your fucking bullshit and who the fuck is the new captain in town? Who's the new sheriff in town? As MJ told Magic Johnson and Larry Bird. Just like they're realizing it, the people in the US are going to realize it. The leftists who are actually genuine about advancing the class struggle and fighting against American foreign policy and imperialism, they're going to realize it in time as well. So they're just the same way that US imperialism has a by any means necessary policy in order to try to overthrow Cuba, in order to try to overthrow China and all of these countries. It's an existential fight for them, because for them what matters is not the cause. For them what matters is sustaining their status, sustaining their institutions, sustaining their money scheme that keeps them living very comfortably off of LARPing and being grifters to leftist and anti-imperialist ideas. And one day is going to come where those members of theirs who are basically in a cult that they do not know is a cult, and that's the funny thing, they love calling us a cult. They're the ones that are in a fucking cult. They're going to realize the truth, and that's what they're scared shitless of, because that's an existential threat to the comfortable lifestyle that they have right now.
Absolutely. Donkey Danny here has left quite a few comments because he comes out of that sort of PMC left that a lot of us, in the ACP have grown out of over time, come to that realization that Carlos was talking about there. And there's nothing wrong with that, of course. All that matters is that you figure it out and, put yourself on the right track and actually try to reach the workers. But this is a very insightful comment here. The worst part is they just co-opt all anti-imperialist communities like the Palestine Youth Movement and the Green Party. A lot of radical people I know are funneled into these. And that's the problem, is while we are doing the hard work and people like Joey are doing the hard work of going to workplaces and organizing workers who don't already agree with us, right? And going on TikTok and other places and educating the youth, which is something when I first joined the left, I couldn't believe nobody was doing what I was doing and trying to simplify Marxism, right? And then give it to the masses in a simplistic way, like through a TikTok or whatever. I couldn't believe no one was doing it. Now I realize it's because a lot of these people have given up on class struggle. A lot of these people don't actually care about Marxism. They care about collecting dues from their members and making sure that they remain at the tippy top of their gate-kept social club, right? So like what Donkey Danny was saying there, they just get people who already agree with them to join the PSL, pay dues for a couple of years, burn out when the revolution doesn't come from having protests with the same damn people every time, and then they leave, right? They leave, or now a lot of people are coming to the ACP. But that's exactly what they do. And what's the function of that? What's the effect of that? The Beckers collect more dues money from radical college students and PMC people. They get to have their little social club, and then those people burn out when they realize the party's not actually doing anything, right? So all they're doing is burning people out and sucking money out of them, going to protests where people already agree with them and recruiting them to come pay dues to the PSL, which, ultimately does pretty much nothing and even hurts the American left. And their positions on foreign policy can be okay, but this is the role that they play domestically, which is the most important. I've hinted at this in the past. I've never said it explicitly. I've said, whatever, solidarity with PSL on their foreign policy issues, but I don't like how they move domestically. This is exactly what I mean, because behind the scenes, these people are gatekeeping everything. The fucking Beckers gate kept my trip to Venezuela. I was supposed to go visit Venezuela, the country that I've been studying and dedicating my life to fighting for against the U.S. regime change efforts for the last 5 years. The country I wrote my undergraduate thesis on, arguing that the U.S. was waging a neo-colonial war of aggression to steal Venezuela's oil. And I was supposed to go and actually meet the people I had been writing about and be in the country that I had been writing about and studying for years. And the fucking PSL behind the scenes pulled some strings and made sure that no ACP members were able to go. This is what they do domestically. So no, I don't give a shit that you're doing revolutionary tourism in Venezuela and Cuba so you can tokenize them, PSL, when you're blocking people who actually give a shit about the struggle, who aren't using it as a grift to make money, want to go and stand in solidarity with those countries, and you're blocking them. You're preventing that from happening. You're preventing any real anti-imperialist unity, which is why I'm now coming out and telling everyone about it after trying to have unity with you for the past however many years on these issues. And I think this is a perfect encapsulation for people who haven't seen maybe the VJ interview or the post that he made. I'll share my screen here real quick, as well as the audio. So here's the post that VJ made. Goes on Jackson's show. They have a lovely conversation. That's the only way I could describe it. It was so pleasant. It was so nice to hear two generations of anti-imperialist communists in dialogue with each other, having a conversation about what to do in the modern era. And then VJ comes out and says, without telling Jackson, right, without confronting Jackson on any of this to his face, he comes out and makes a tweet, which we know was because Brian Becker called him up on the phone and told him to make this tweet, or one of the Becker family, and says he did not properly understand the political vitriol spread by the ACP, even though he went on Jackson's show 4 years ago and went on our show 4 years ago and has never had a single problem with anything we've said and has never actually brought anything up to our fucking faces. Because I was uncomfortable with the questions that he asked, even though he, again, didn't actually say that in the interview. And, it's cope. It's cope. He's grasping at straws here to try to justify canceling Jackson with a tweet after having a pleasant conversation, and it's because the Beckers have a freaking metaphorical gun to his head. So he has to grasp at straws to find a reason why Jackson is one of the untouchables at the bottom of the
Eddie,
cast.
if I may real quick, it's
Yeah.
incredibly fucking weak. It is incredibly fucking weak. How are you as a man going to sit there and have a conversation? You're going to sit there and have a conversation that you could have pushed back on at any moment if you wanted to. Because you know who the fuck Jackson is. You know what the fuck the ACP is. And you talk to him about these issues in there, in person, live. And then wait 2-3 days to put out a tweet and victimize yourself. Do you not see how fucking weak that is? You love going to Cuba. You love talking about Cuban boxing. You know what we Cubans have? We have cojones. Cojones. We have fucking balls. We have fucking balls. If we're going to say something, we say it in person, dog. We say it in person. We don't wait 2-3 days like a little fucking bitch-made motherfucker to say it on a fucking tweet. We don't fucking do that shit. Stop fucking LARPing, going to Cuba and all these trips. You don't get to the ankle of the Cubans. You don't get to the ankle of Cuban boxers. You don't have the fucking heart. If you would have been a man, you would have stood there in front of Jackson and you would have pushed back. At least we would have respected you. Maybe it wouldn't have been a pleasant conversation, but at least you would have shown the balls to push back and say some shit. Not fucking wait 2-3 days like a fucking bitch and then go out into the internet after you got a fucking little phone call from your buddies.
Do you think Teofilo Stevenson or Mijan Lopez Nunez would respect this behavior, VJ, honestly? Do you think they would respect being super friendly to somebody's face and then trying to badmouth them and cancel them in a tweet 3 days later when they can't actually respond? Do you think these Cuban athletes that you lionize would respect that kind of behavior? I'm telling you they wouldn't. I've gotten the chance to meet a few of them. They would not respect this behavior. They would respect what Carlos said. If you had these disagreements with Jackson, bringing them up to his face where you can have a conversation about them, man to man. But you decided to subtweet him, essentially. And this was a post that was made by Socialism with Duck's Unlimited characteristics. Great.
If I were to lay out a research agenda today for Marxist...
I don't know if this is from the interview with Jackson or not, but this is VJ talking versus VJ acting.
In, say, the United States or in other parts of the West, I would return to 100 years ago, the possibilities that were there. To write about why it is that the working class, is caught in a fog of ideology, is unable to actually advance to a different kind of political assessment of the situation. Why is that? We need empirical studies. We need deep understanding of the culture and the kind of grip that the political class has on the population. And also we need to have people go and accompany movements today in Cuba and Venezuela and so on. Try to learn how are people actually trying to build socialism in very difficult circumstances. Accompany the movements. Try to understand and abstract from those movements elements of theory. All of that is simply not done. What's done today is exactly what happened 100 years ago. A pessimistic retreat into philosophy and then a disparagement of socialist experiments.
Literally describes what he's doing now. And what's so funny is this is from our interview, I guess, the interview that we did with Vijay Prashad that was pinned on our YouTube channel for like over a year. So when Vijay talks about this political vitriol that the ACP has been spreading, what the hell is he talking about? We've been spreading his theory, bitch, because we actually know how to use the internet because we're youngins. We've been using it to spread the 87 books that you wrote that not that many people read. No offense. It's hard. You get blackballed by publishers and you don't get the promotion of mainstream books. I get it. But we did everything we could to spread your theory and your work, that which we agreed with, which is most of it, with the masses. So what kind of political vitriol are we spreading when you and us are in line on 95% of the issues. And you and Jackson are as well, which was obvious in the conversation that you had with each other. Is that what you call political vitriol? Your own books, your own interviews that we helped you to share before you stabbed us in the fucking back without even telling us to our faces what you had wrong with us or what you think is wrong with us? Without even, having a dialogue, which is what I do with my friends, with my acquaintances, with people I know. If I disagree with them on something, I bring it up to them. I certainly wouldn't go make a tweet and unfollow them and do this bitch shit. I'm sorry, that's the only thing that it can be described as. It's just behavior that I can't respect, even though this is an academic that I used to respect a lot.
You were talking earlier, Eddie, about the function of these institutions, and please, everyone listening in, like, pay attention to this part. This is going to be important. The way that the US was able to ideologically beat the communists in the West was by promoting a compatible left. That's what the CIA agent Thomas Braden called it. The essence of the compatible left, in substance, was being anti-communist, so against the Soviet Union, the Soviet bloc, People's China, Cuba, etc., while still pretending to be socialist, right? It was the ideology of Michael Harrington in the 60s and 70s. It's the ideology of DSA. However, that's not the only form that the compatible left takes. They realized, by the very nature of the importance of the act, of the importance of actual party work and organizing and building habits and doing the work that communist parties do, they realized that it is safe for them to have organizations that might have the correct line on some geopolitical problems, that might have the traditional Marxist or Marxist-Leninist line on these problems, but that in their actions, how they carry themselves out, just function in a way to present their own obstacles and fetters to the development of their ideas. And that is what the PSL is. That's why it can't be, I think, fully collapsed into Trotskyism. Yes, it comes from Trotskyism, Marxism, etc. But it's a new type of compatible left, where the State Department ventures to say, we're going to allow a group to have the correct ideas on geopolitics, the ideas that we fought against in the past, only because we have them so controlled and so cupped by the balls that in their actions, we know they're not going to do anything, right? Because it's not enough to have the right ideas. It's not enough to have the right ideas. You need to have the right actions, the right structures, the right discipline, the right habits in order to actually give life to those ideas. So what the PSO represents is the modern form of a compatible left, where you're allowed to have the right ideas insofar as you have them in structures, insofar as you have them in groups and organizations that do not have the right actions. And not only do not have the right actions, have in the basis of their modus operandi, of their method of work, an inability to ever have the correct actions. That is what the PSL is. It's the compatible left of today. It's the safe left.
You know what I would call it, Carlos? I'm going to coin a term right now. I agree with you that it's not quite Trotskyism. It's something new. It's Marxism and Leninism, because that's what the PSL calls themselves. They won't call themselves Marxist-Leninists because domestically they're not a Marxist-Leninist party, and they know it. They know that they don't act in the way a Marxist-Leninist party does. The only truly Marxist-Leninist party in America is the ACP, and we're the only party that actually calls ourselves Marxist-Leninists. There's a reason for that. There's a reason the PSL has in their constitution or whatever, Marxist and Leninist, because they're scared of being associated with Stalin and socialist projects that actually worked if they were, I don't know, socially conservative or something. I don't know what reasons they give. But that's essentially what they are. They adopt, a pseudo-Leninist foreign policy. I mean, it's not fully Leninist. They'll tokenize countries like Cuba that are more pro-LGBTQ and, act like that's what the entire anti-imperialist world thinks is what, Cuba thinks, because that's in line with their position on the culture war and social issues. So they tokenize the anti-imperialist world for their own cynical arguments here domestically. So it's not entirely Leninist. But they are against U.S. imperialism, against China, moderately against U.S. imperialism against Russia, although they've been a little wishy-washy, right? They're moderately, I would say strongly in favor of a one Palestinian state. But then domestically, what they're doing is tearing apart the Palestine solidarity movement with their gatekeeping. tearing apart any unity between communists who want to see one sovereign, independent, free Palestine. So it's exactly as Carlos said. It's something that is unique to the United States, where they give people the feeling that they're in a revolutionary Marxist-Leninist party, but at the end of the day, they're not. They're Marxist and Leninist, which means they're act like liberals domestically in their organizing efforts, and they don't actually go down to the workers. They go up to the protests to recruit new students to pay dues into their organizations. We've been going off here. Let me check the super chats. Thank you, everybody, for all these super chats. Thank you, Beta Virus, Free Palestine. Thank you, Florida Man, Irrelevant, Cowardly Boomer. Yeah, there's also a generational divide, and we talked about this on the most recent Metal Gear Red podcast, which you should check out if you haven't yet. There's a generational divide on the right, and there's a generational divide on the left. And VJ seems like someone who wants to bridge this divide. I actually was friends with his daughter on TikTok for a while. But he's got these shadowy overlords that are the Becker family behind him, preventing him from actually reaching out and working together with the younger generation that's social media savvy and has some skills that the older generation doesn't want to acknowledge or utilize.
Can I piggyback off of something you just said there, Eddie? Shadowy overlords. There was people asking in the chat, are those the people from Breakthrough News, the guy with the show in Breakthrough News? They don't even present themselves as the leadership of the PSL. You don't see it on their media. Unless you're in the PSL or you know about it, you don't know that the Beckers are basically the secretariat. Them, the people they marry, their family, are basically who run the PSL. All you know about is the Answer Coalition and specifically Breakthrough News. They don't publicly come out and attack us. Remember the CNN hit piece when they asked Brian Becker about Jackson? All he was able to say is, I have different politics. But their dogs, they send out their dogs to attack us. And look at the difference in organization. You have these shadowy figures that pretend to not be the ones calling the shots in their party, who get these other fucking miserable worms to attack other people and their enemies while they stay clean to the public. That's what you got on one side. On the other side, you have people like us, the executive board of the party, the top leadership, saying publicly without mincing our words what it is that we think. Not once have we said something we don't mean. We don't mince our words. We say what we mean, and we mean what we say, and we say it publicly. We don't have other people say it for us. We say it ourselves, and we allow people to come and talk to us and challenge us. When have you ever seen Becker on a live stream allow people to come in and challenge him? But you see that with Haas's streams every Thursday.
Every week. We do it every week.
Every week we have 4 members of the executive board do it multiple times a week sometimes. Look at the difference in organization and then tell me which one actually embodies the modus operandi, the mode of work, the method of work of communist leadership.
Yeah, you almost got to feel bad for VJ in a way. I don't feel bad for him. He made the choice to do this, but the Beckers threw him to the wolves. Now he's getting cooked on social media by, the real anti-imperialist left, and Brian Becker doesn't have to be involved in it at all. They're totally willing to throw their own members to the wolves in order to protect their social club and to gatekeep the left from emergent stars like Jackson Hinkle, who have the ability to actually unite people against Israel and against capitalist imperialism. Joey, thank you for the $5 super chat. Keep up the great work in PA. You're doing way more than the Becker family ever has. I agree. L, thank you, L. This is exactly why the ACP didn't charge dues. Once a person becomes a cadre member, dues allow leadership to sit on their hands with no real impetus for action. Exactly. We knew that we could have collected dues from you guys and we would all be living a lot more comfortably right now. I'll just, I don't want to open up and make all of our, behind the scenes stuff completely public, but that's obvious. Anybody could tell that if we charged all of our members dues, because you guys are very loyal members, you're not loyal to us. Well, maybe you are loyal to us, but you're also loyal to Marxism, Leninism, and to communism first and foremost. That's the common denominator across all the great members in our party, is that they're loyal to Marxism, Leninism, and communism and their principles first and foremost, not any one personality. So we knew that because a lot of you, do like us as leaders, and you do have some sense of loyalty to us as individuals, we could have preyed upon that and preyed upon your dedication to Marxism-Leninism in order to collect money for ourselves and live much more comfortably. But because we care about the struggle, because we don't care about living pampered lives and, doing get-rich-quick schemes using communism and socialism, we decided not to collect dues so that we wouldn't become stagnant, so that we would be motivated to find other ways to raise money and pay people salaries in these jobs that require full-time effort, like Carlos, who's doing 80 hours a week plus of work for the party. And I'm not exaggerating when I say that. All right. We would rather do that work, which is helpful work for growing our party, than become stagnant and live comfortably off the money of our members. And I know that's an alien ideology in America, where you're told that the American dream is just collecting as much money as possible. But frankly, I would rather die than use my principles, and your principles, especially your deeply held beliefs, in order to scam money off of you through dues and live a more comfortable life myself. Fuck that. And the fact that people do that is just mind-boggling to me.
And that's why the protests are important, because the protests are fun as hell, man. They go out with the drums. They got you have this sort of libidinal release when you're in a protest, and it's very easy to get them from the protest to join the party and to start giving out money, because you're basically paying a subscription to be able to go out and party every weekend. That's basically what it is. It's like a subscription to a club that you get to go every weekend and party with your buddies, play the drums, wave some flags, and do the same thing you did weeks prior, the same thing you've done over 20 fucking years that has accomplished absolutely nothing.
And guess what? We have social events too, but they're not PMC leftist social events where you have to walk on eggshells all the time. They're events where you could just hang out and be chill and tell jokes and hang out with other normal people, and get some social interaction and break down that alienation. We don't even have to get into the kind of parties that the Beckers and the PSL elites have behind the scenes, because they do have not just the social events as in the protest that Carlos is talking about, but there are rumors of them doing some weirder stuff. But we don't even have to get into that. Thank you, Joey. Glasses wearers. Yes, glasses wearers. We're going to smash our glasses on camera someday.
These are blue light glasses, to be fair. It's to not get the eyes.
I almost, during the last Metal Gear Red podcast, when Haas was talking about glasses, I almost took mine off and snapped them just for comedic effect. I should have done it. It would have been worth the $10 pair of blue lights. Oh, well. Lawn Guy. Thank you, Lawn Guy. One of you invite me on your show as a guest, and I'll laugh and smile, have a good time. The next day, say I felt uncomfortable and cornered from what you said. Yes, absolutely. I would love to have that. That would be a super brave and badass move of you. Thank you, Long Guy, for the $10. Battle Cossack, thank you, brother. What do you think of the Bolivian left and its current situation? Yes, we will talk about that in a second. And I like that you bring up the pink tide, because a few years ago, Carlos and I wrote an article about the pink tide where we basically said this is good, but it needs to become a red tide. And if it doesn't become a red tide, the forces of counter-revolution are going to wipe it away. And that's what we're seeing now in Bolivia, as well as other things that relate to what Joey was saying about the glasses wearers, and Arce's PMC politics versus Evo's union, blue-collar, working-class, rural working-class politics. So we'll talk about that later. Ja with the $50 super chat. Holy shit. Thank you, brother. Appreciate you very much. You know that the money you give us is going to be reinvested in the work of the party, of the ACP. That's our guarantee to you. Thank you so much, though. That's awesome. American pragmatism, American Marxism, proven in practice. Exactly. And that's where the disconnect comes with a lot of these people, is they'll repeat the right slogans. And Lenin talked about this all the time. These people who repeat the Marxist slogans and repeat the works of Marxist theory, the most important works. But when it comes to practice, it doesn't inform their theory, and the theory doesn't inform their practice. There's a total disconnect, right? Where they can say on one hand, like VJ, he's against Fed jacketing and cancel culture and all of these things, and thinks that we should have conversations with all other anti-imperialists, and then he can turn around and cancel Jackson Hinkle with a tweet and talk about all the political vitriol that he spread and blah, blah, blah. It's a disconnect between theory and practice. I've seen so many people, so many academics who love Carlos's book, The Purity Fetish, but then Haas and Jackson are dedicated, stalwart comrades in the struggle against imperialism who have never backed down in that struggle and have dedicated their entire lives to fighting it, with Jackson even being barred from the US and having to live in Russia. They look at these people and they cancel them and call them impure, while plagiarizing the purity fetish and by talking about purity politics on interviews that they do. I'm sorry, it's straight up plagiarism. To pay attention to that, by the way, since we're fucking just ripping into everybody today and exposing all of these fake academic anti-imperialists, pay attention to how many people talk about purity politics or a politics of purity or fighting against the desire to keep the left pure. They're fucking plagiarizing Carlos. They'll never say purity fetish because they're scared to be associated with the ACP, but they know that his theory is correct. They just don't want to actually apply it in practice, so they come up with another fucking name for it. Start paying attention to how many people do that, and I guarantee you, you'll be surprised and disappointed.
Well, they tried to not only come up with a new name for it, but to use the same name, but give it a new source that was a cleaner individual, not associated with ACP, so that they could start citing them and not the real person and institution that developed the concept. Because it's not just my concept, it's the concept of the institute and now basically the party, because it's reading that's mandatory for cadre, that cadre employs. So yeah, that's an admission that they have to use the tools that we develop, but they're so duplicitous that they can't ever give credence. Even scholars who are supposed to have a little bit of a not scholarly discipline, but it's the methods of scholars require you to cite where ideas come from. They're willing to break and participate in actual plagiarism than to contaminate themselves by associating with a thinker that is in the secretariat of the ACP.
Absolutely. This is a good comment. It's a long one, but it talks about all the people across history who have championed the name of Marxism, but have completely distorted it in practice, from Edward Bernstein to the Fabian Society, the Frankfurt School. There's connections there, and it's a pattern throughout history. I think PSL is something new. As Carlos said, it's a uniquely American phenomenon where they pretend to have Leninist politics abroad while disrupting real Leninist organizing efforts here at home. But yeah, you can see the patterns all throughout history since Marx. I mean, Marx wrote about these people, these bourgeois socialists, these Fabian socialists, and Lenin even more so. Thank you, Orpheus. I respect the work you do and wish you guys the best. Greetings from Macedonia. Wow, I think those might be the first Macedonian dollars that we've gotten. So new donation unlocked, new fighter unlocked. Thank you, Orpheus. Very cool, and I hope things are going well for you in Macedonia.
I always have a soft spot for the Macedonian Empire and Alex the Great, because his tutor was Aristotle. And you know what Aristotle says after, unfortunately, the great Alex the Great falls and the Macedonian Empire falls? The Athenians are looking for Aristotle to kill him, and he says, "I'm not going to let Athens sin twice against philosophy," and he dips out and ends up dying some months after. But yeah,
that's awesome. Are you guys going to bring VJ on and trying to fix things and maybe try to uncover some things? Luis Garza, thank you for the $10 super chat. I would love to, right? Because as Karl Marx said, the communists disdain to conceal their aims. Mm-hmm. I would love to sit down with Vijay Prashad and have a conversation about the issues that we disagree on, or his reasons behind going after Jackson Hinkle after having a friendly interview with him. The problem is he didn't give us that opportunity. He went on the show with Jackson, had a very friendly conversation, and then made a tweet after the fact. right? And we know that that tweet was extracted out of him by PSL leadership, who wants to gatekeep the left and prevent new insurgent political forces from rising up, Marxist-Leninist political forces. And you know that they're gonna, put a gag order on him. VJ is probably humiliated by having to put out that tweet. There's no way he's gonna want to talk to us again, right? They're gonna put up an iron bar in between him and us, so we can't work out our differences and actually come to some point of unity. I would love to. I would love to have that conversation. I've read this guy's work for the last 6 years, right? I've watched I used to watch every single fucking interview that Vijay Prashad put out. I know what he believes, and I would love to have a conversation with him about why he's canceling Jackson when they believe 99% of the same shit. But the Becker family's not going to allow that to happen. And that's the role that the leadership of PSL, which is the Becker family, plays on the left, preventing any kind of real Marxist-Leninist anti-imperialist unity by using these people like their pets, like dogs, to attack their enemies and cancel their enemies on Twitter without ever actually fucking doing it themselves. So I would love to. You guys can tell VJ, you can clip this and send it to him and say, guess what? You're welcome to come on Midwestern March to discuss this anytime. But I highly doubt that he will, because he's being controlled by a group of people, one family of people who's been profiting off of the anti-imperialist movement in America for way too damn long. L, thank you, L. Another super chat from L. Let's go. Oh, L always finds the best quotes on the internet right here, folks. Who would want to have a talk? Who would want to have a talk always with intellectual skunks, with people who study only for the purpose of finding new dead ends in every corner of the world? Marx to Rouge, in March 1842. That was early Marx. He was already on to these intellectuals back then. For those who don't know, Carlos can talk more about this than me. That was part of the reason that Marx split with the young Hegelians. He was tired of these intellectuals who would retreat into philosophy, as VJ said in that interview with us, and they just write about atheism and how the masses are stupid for being religious and looking down on them. And Marx said, that's when he decided the point of philosophy is not to interpret the world, it's to change it. Or philosophers have, heretofore only interpreted the world, but the point is to change it. He got sick of these academics sitting in their ivory tower and gatekeeping and pondering and philosophizing without actually fucking doing anything to end the rampant imperialism and exploitation of the masses and human suffering around them. So yeah, it's almost no point talking to people who are lost in that world.
No, yeah. I wrote an article for one of the leading journals out of the Chinese Academy for Social Sciences about that transition of Marx away from the young Hegelians. And that was central to it. They were just jibber-jabbering about stuff that had no concrete bearing to the actual problems that people face in their everyday life.
Absolutely. Use purity fetish to include those who aren't U.S. patriots is where you lost me. I'm not sure what you're referring to. That may have been a tweet that I made a long time ago where I said I don't really care if young people aren't patriots because they hate U.S. imperialism, but I've changed my stance on that. I really think you have to be a patriot in order to be a real communist. Because otherwise, what are you calling for? If you don't want to transform your country for the better, then, how are you supposed to do anything except cry and call it Turtle Island and continue to lose ground to conservatives and fascists?
There was a guy on my comment section on Instagram who's like, look, I disagree with, I'm like an Arab American, I disagree with the patriotism stuff, but I'll be side by side with you fighting when the fight comes. And those sorts of people, look, I think that if they're fighting, they're patriots. They just do not know they're patriots. It's that simple. In the same way that I say that Americans are already communists, they just do not know they're communists yet, because you can't believe in government of, by, and for the people and not be a communist. You can't be fighting for the working class and do it in the way that that guy suggested, of being next to us, even if they disagree with patriotism, and not be a patriot. They just don't know that they're patriots yet.
Right. Oh, this guy was saying the opposite. He was saying that not everybody has to be a patriot, which is the position that I had before. And he wants self-determination for African people in the U.S. Hey, we're in favor of that if it's what the African people want. The not even African people, Black Americans is what they are. And yes, they were stolen and brought over from Africa because of slavery, but it's not what Black Americans want. It's just not. They see themselves as Americans. Look at any of the polling of minority groups in America, Black or otherwise, and this is the major problem with this ideology is you have a lot of white college students. Not saying that's what you are, Huey. I have no idea what you are. Maybe you are a Black American who wants self-determination in your own state. But the vast majority of people, minorities in the U.S. don't. But you have a lot of these white college students calling America Turtle Island and saying, we need a group for every ethno-state. We need an ethno-state, a country for every different racial group, which is ethno-nationalism, not Marxism, if you take it to its full logical conclusion. But then they're trying to force this on, indigenous Americans and Black Americans who see themselves as part of one America, who want to be part of this one civilizational project, part of this society. They don't want to be balkanized and have the country be divided by race. That policy was foisted on the CPUSA by Moscow from the beginning. And, if you're going to critique the Soviets, one of the things that they did that kind of shot themselves in the foot was creating all these different nations based on race, which allowed the U.S. to then stoke ethno-nationalism, which is what you've seen in Ukraine. It allowed the U.S. and CIA to stoke Nazi ideology. So we prefer one big civilization state. That's the direction that that society has been moving. And that's the direction that even so-called minority groups in America have been moving to. They want to be Americans. That's why you have famous influencers now, like that native patriot guy, because he comes out and says, I'm indigenous and I'm socially conservative and I see myself as an American, which is a lot of those people. It's not this like abstract idea of the noble savage that a lot of people have in their heads.
Yeah, and ask yourself this question: does anyone have national self-determination in America? Is the nation free? I don't think so.
The Black Belt thesis was grown from Black America, not the Soviets. I don't believe that, especially when the prominent Black thinkers like W.E.B. Du Bois were arguing
not in the party.
opposite.
Yeah, not in the party, at least. In the party, it was imposed from Moscow, and Du Bois was completely against it, as you said.
Right. Again, if there was massive support for that among Black Americans, then, it'd be a different story. But
even the African Blood Brotherhood, it was a Marxist Black organization before the CPUSA, they weren't in favor of the Black Belt thesis.
Everybody just needs to fucking read Du Bois. That's what it really comes down to.
But the point, if I can just finish it real quick.
Oh, sorry.
We're not free. America's an occupied country. If you think that anyone, white, Black, Hispanic, Asian, whatever the hell you might be, indigenous, if you think you're free or that you're self-determined, which is tied to freedom, it's cuckoo for cuckoo puffs. No one is free. The whole nation, everyone is occupied by finance capital, by the capitalist elite. America itself is not free. And any project of freedom for any one group is necessarily going to be tied to combining with everyone else. And you have Nkrumah in your name. One of the central lessons of Nkrumah is that imperialism balkanizes. It balkanizes. And the ideology of saying Black Americans are not Americans, they're their own thing that needs their own nation, that's balkanization par excellence. What we need is to unite as Americans. And the foundations for that unity has already been created with the civil rights political revolution.
Absolutely. John Freeze wants me to do a tier list of people who have Jackson derangement syndrome. How would you rank Fiorella and Vijay? Well, Vijay would rank very low, but Brian Becker would rank really high because Brian Becker's the one calling the shots there. Fiorella would be extremely high. She has some kind of weird pathological hatred of Jackson that I don't think I'll ever understand. But yeah, maybe that'll be the next tier list. We'll have to see. Thank you, John Freeze. Dave from California sends $2 and says, is Blankism a viable doctrine to win? Blankism is when you have like a small group of people who carry out the socialist revolution secretly and then kind of impose it from the top down. It's impossible without the support of the masses. You're just going to be overthrown, especially if you're a country that's being targeted by capitalist imperialism. You need to have the support of the masses. Now, you can have a thing like what happened in Burkina Faso, where there's a coup by a small group of people who are able to seize state power. But the reason that they haven't been deposed yet, and the first leader actually was deposed because he wasn't supported by the people. And then that's when Ibrahim Traore came into power. And he is widely supported by the people of Burkina Faso, which is why the US and France and these other neo-colonial powers haven't been able to overthrow him yet. So even if it's a small group of people who actually leads the revolution and the seizure of power, if they don't have the support of the masses, they are completely cooked. So you need the support of the proletariat and the working class and the people who actually do the work of building socialism. If you're going to build it and to seize and maintain power for any period of time.
I couldn't have put it better myself.
Thanks, Johnny, with the gifted membership. Thank you, Johnny. Appreciate you. Shout out to whoever gets that membership. So now that we have finally a little break in super chats, thank you all for the super chats. We appreciate you for being so generous, and we will reinvest that money in the growth of the Institute and the growth of our party. But let's talk a little bit about Bolivia. Bolivia has been an interesting sort of electoral socialist project over the past few years. They had this leader, Evo Morales, who came from the unions, did a lot of things like nationalizing coca leaf production and reinvesting the money from that into development for the Bolivian people, kicking out Western multinationals who were siphoning Bolivia's resources. But he was eventually overthrown in a literal fascist US-backed coup. Like, these people were basically open fascists who had like 9% support of the population. Again, this shows what happens when you take power and you don't have the support of the population. Because in the next election, Evo's former friend and advisor, Luis Arce, won. He defeated these fascists backed by the CIA, and it looked like the MAS party, the Movement for Socialism party, was back in power. Evo was returned to the country after being sent in exile, and it was a big victory for the left. But what happened next was extremely disappointing, as Arce tried to hold on to power and started beefing with Evo and wanting to now be the leader of the MAS and the leader of Bolivia. And the problem with that is that Evo was a man from the unions. Evo was a working class guy who rose from the bottom up. He was one of the masses. Arce is an intellectual, an economist, a PMC glasses wearer, as we could say. And we see what allowing a PMC academic to lead the struggle for socialism leads to, what it becomes. He tore the MAS party apart for personal, petty power reasons. And now Bolivia lost power, and they'll no longer have they lost the first election. It's looking like the Socialist Party will completely lose power, and they'll no longer have this socialist economic movement, this movement in a positive direction, all because of these petty personal disputes from PMC intellectuals. I'm not saying Evo is completely blameless, but most of the blame falls on Arce. And I want to have our friend Dan, who spent a lot of time in Bolivia, who's an ACP cadre. I want to have him on the show soon to discuss this more in depth, because he knows the situation much better on the ground than either of us. But that's what I make of it.
Yeah, you had mentioned earlier the article that we did together about having to turn the pink tide into a red tide. The other component of this is that PMC hijacking of MAS and the splitting that did of the base that MAS was able to build aside. If your socialism puts you in a position where something like that can get you to lose power, you're not fully building a dictatorship of the proletariat. You're not there yet. If you are in a position where that could happen, you're not there yet. What all of these socialistic movements need to realize is that to get anywhere, to defend the actual things that they're fighting for and winning, they need a dictatorship of the proletariat. It's that simple. If you allow a state that lets the opposition, those who represent the interests of capital, have any capacity to say lick in terms of politics, to come back to power through Elections, that's no good. That's no good. That's operating and treading in the bourgeois conception of democracy, where democracy is elections. Well, when democracy was first theorized in ancient Greece, elections were considered to be a method of aristocracy, because obviously the people that had the most resources and the ability for rhetoric, which required hiring sophists that taught you how to speak and all this other stuff, those people were the aristocrats. So they were very good at winning elections. So elections have never been historically a method of governance for actual democracy. If you want actual democracy, what matters is not are the people voting. What matters is, are the leadership actually embodying the will of the people? Are they representing the people in the sense of upholding their interests, improving their living conditions, and actually upholding their interests? And you cannot do that as a socialist party, as a socialist government, if you do not fundamentally kick out the capacity of the imperialists to have any sort of power. Like Che Guevara said, to imperialism, we don't give ni tantico así. We don't even give it this much of a centimeter, because imperialism comes in and destroys everything, even if you give it this much. And that's one of the central problems in Bolivia. They did not finish the process of developing that victory in the bourgeois government into a socialist working class dictatorship. And that's what opened it up for these sorts of mistakes, which are, absolutely rooted in this class antagonism that still exists between the classes wearers, the PMC, the Western educated, because remember, he went to University of Warwick, right? So Western educated technocrats, and the people that actually rose from the ranks and with the ranks, like Evo Morales. At the heart of everything is the fact that there was no dictatorship of the proletariat, because when there's a dictatorship, you have these scuffles, but there's no possibility of the capitalist class ever winning, because you've stripped them of what Mao called political capital. They can have their companies, they can get rich, but we control them. We control them. We make them our bitches. That's how the capitalist class should function. Don't touch political power at all. And that's where they failed. They had 20-something years to get it done, or 20 years, 2 decades to get it done. They should have learned in 2019. They didn't, and now they're here, and the working class is going to suffer. They're going to suffer. The indigenous are going to suffer, which Bolivia is basically primarily indigenous country. They're going to suffer like they did in 2019, if not worse, because it's going to last longer. 2019 lasted a year, and then they came back to power. And remember, what was 2019 about? Term limits. Evo was supposedly anti-democracy and unconstitutional because he wanted to continue ruling. What the fuck are term limits? What are term limits? Arce should have never been in power in the first place. If Evo was the guy that the people wanted, let him. Let him rule till he's 105 years old if he's still getting the job done. What the fuck is this bourgeois concept of term limits? Get it the fuck out of here.
Parenti was actually very good on debunking that specifically, how, in the idea that increased term limits mean increased democracy. It's not the case at all. And actually, it's used sometimes to try and get rid of actually popular working class leaders like Evo. But I think this is interesting, not to toot our own horn here, but this is an article that Carlos and I wrote in like 2020 or 2021. Where we basically predicted this, where we said we're very happy to see, all these electoral socialist movements winning power in Latin America, what's been called the pink tide. But the pink tide needs to become a red tide. They need a real dictatorship of the proletariat. They need to get rid of all these bourgeois state institutions and reinvest the surplus of the country in the people completely, not just, certain parts of the industry. The entire thing needs to be revolutionized and transformed into a real democracy, into a dictatorship of the working class. This is what happens when you try to achieve socialism democratically through the institutions of bourgeois democracy. And, what we said has been proven correct, maybe even more than we knew at the time that it would be. At the time, we were probably more hopeful for these electoral experiments in Latin America. But this isn't the only one that's failed. You also have like Gabriel Boric in Chile, who people were all excited about. That guy's just like an AOC imperialist now, complete fraud by calling himself a socialist, right? So the pink tide isn't enough. There needs to be a red tide. There needs to be a real revolutionary movement across Latin America that's led by the working masses, the rural masses, the proletariat, not these technocrats educated in Western universities trying to appoint themselves as the leaders of the socialist movement, like some Latin American Brian Beckers or something.
And this is why theory matters, guys. Theory matters. Theory isn't just jibber jabber. It could be jibber jabber by a bunch of glasses wearers, but theory matters when it's in the hands of the right people, because theory is that accumulated experience and insight of the working class and the general class struggle, as Lenin said. And what the class struggle has shown is that not one country that developed fully the dictatorship of the proletariat fell. You know when the Soviet Union fell? When they cowered out and they gave political capital to the West. When they gave political capital to liberalism, they started adopting liberal ideas in terms of their political and governance system. That's central to their fall. No country, not one, that upheld the dictatorship of the proletariat and upheld the principle of keeping political capital out of the hands of the capitalists has fallen. Not one has gone the route of Allende. Not one. And that's an insight that if we do not take serious, if we fuck around and let it pass and say, oh, maybe this time is different, like Allende used to say, we've had a long tradition of democratic transfers of power with no problem. It's been 200 years. No, there was no transfer of power. It was a transfer of one bourgeois candidate to another bourgeois candidate. If you actually want a transition of power to socialism, you need to transition everything, the state. And that means kicking the capitalist class away from power. There's a comrade, Red Chilean, by the way, shout out to the comrade, who says he fears that Venezuela might be risking the same sort of defeat. I don't think so, primarily because in my trips to Venezuela, I've been able to see in person that the cadre in Venezuela are not of the nature that they were 20 years ago or 10 years ago or even 5 years ago. Now they're talking about Lenin. Now they're talking about creating a situation where they guarantee that every election is won by PSOV in every locality in the country, right? And if tomorrow they decide, you know, this election thing is kind of stupid, we're just going to institute the PSOV's dictatorship around the country, I'm going to sit back and I'm going to applaud them. And I'm going to say, you know what? Jimmy Carter was right. This is the best democracy in the whole planet. This is the most democratic system in the whole planet. But they're heading that way. And they're heading that way because of the experience, and they're actually taking insights. And if they don't actualize what they're starting to recognize, then they could be in trouble. But I have faith, a little bit more faith that they will.
Absolutely. Your take on Bolivia and Venezuela, comrades. Yeah. Thank you for the super chat, comrade. That's what we're going over right now. And socialism, you have to admit, it worked in Bolivia. Economically, it worked. You know, the things that they were able to implement, such as the nationalization and full unionization of the coca leaf industry, led to a lot of economic benefits for their country, led to a lot of money being reinvested in new roads and education, healthcare, and all these good things that happen when you kick out the U.S. exploiters and reinvest your resources in your own society. So socialism was working, but it's the form of socialism. It's this electoral form of socialism. It's this socialist party that's now led by an opportunist PMC Western educated academic that led their socialist experiment to fail. It's not that the economic policies failed. It's that the political approach was not Marxist-Leninist. It was this democratic socialist approach that has always, when has this not eventually failed in Latin America? Like, come on, guys. Did we learn nothing from Salvador Allende? Fidel Castro told Salvador Allende straight up, he said, bro, there are people in your country who the U.S. will pay to kill you. Like this Pinochet fella here, they're going to give him a bunch of guns. They're going to give his people a bunch of training, and they're going to come and kill you unless you do something about them first. And what happened? Exactly that. They overthrew Allende, they killed him, and then they killed 20,000 other communists or 10,000 other communists or whatever in the country's national soccer stadium. Just tortured them and executed them. Right? That's what happens if you don't assert the authority, the dictatorship of the working class, the proletariat. What politics really comes down to is a battle for state power between the workers and the owners, between the various economic classes that make up society. And if you say, we're going to shoot ourselves in the foot and play this game on your ground, on the bourgeois ground that's been created in order to uphold liberal capitalism and bourgeois societies, then you're going to lose. The bourgeoisie is going to assert its authority over you, and they're going to be far more brutal. They're going to massacre you and torture you, and this facade of liberal democracy will fade away that you, the socialists, were trying to adhere to, when in reality, the liberal Democrats who made that system never gave a shit about it in the first place. They just were inventing a way to keep themselves in power for all of eternity.
Absolutely. There was a comment here from L that was amazing. The fear of proletarian authoritarianism is a form of fascism. Absolutely. Because the only thing that can beat the preconditions for fascism is that proletarian authoritarianism.
Exactly. And it's like a working class guy telling his boss to fuck off and saying, I'm not going to work extra hours for no overtime pay because I create all of your wealth. That's him asserting his authority. That's him saying, I have the authority because I create all the value here. And I'm going to assert my authority over you in the workplace and say that I, the worker, control this workplace. That is a form of authority. So what revolution? And obviously it doesn't work like that on the individual level. You need a collective in order to actually assert authority over your boss. But what kind of revolution, what kind of workers' uprising is anti-authoritarian, has no asserting of authority? The very act of the workers rising up is them asserting their authority over the ruling class. So why are we going to put limits on that and say we have to work within the confines of bourgeois democracy because it's too authoritarian to build a new government that's actually democratic and actually run by the people? And there's also the problem in Latin America of all these, all the anti-communist propaganda. I like to say often that the Red Scare and McCarthyism was imported on Latin America by Operation Condor and the CIA and all these other things that they did across the 60s, 70s, and 80s. But that's why you have to be Marxist-Leninist and win the people over, because what's the point of having a socialist experiment that gets overthrown by fascists and sets the country back 30 years?
Absolutely.
And I didn't used to be as hardcore on this. I was more, in approval of these electoral socialist governments in Latin America. And obviously, I'm always against our government, going in and overthrowing them and trying to crush them. But in practice, over time, from years of being on the left, I've seen how democratic socialism fails every time. Dictatorship of the proletariat is truly the only way.
Unless it evolves into communism, doomed.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I'm seeing in Venezuela. That's why I don't think Venezuela is going to go down that route. And Mexico, someone asked about Mexico. Mexico is very interesting. They're at, I think, the high point in terms of winning the war of positions. It's virtually ridiculous to speculate that anytime soon the Morena party is going to lose. So they're getting close to, I think, the moment where it might be opportune. The difficulty with Mexico is that it borders the U.S. So if Mexico goes a little bit too into dark Mexico, the U.S. is going to step in and just completely ravage it. If it can, who knows if it can or not. It's not easy to beat the people who want to defend their land and the revolution, but Mexico is getting very socialistic policies passed under the name Mexican humanism. So it's interesting the experience that Mexico is giving the global communist movement while doing it under a different name.
For sure. A lot of people are texting me about my video being played on Jimmy Dore right now. I'm excited to see that and see how he reacted. Hopefully we can reach a section of Jimmy's audience. I think they're the perfect audience for the ACP and our propaganda and stuff like that. We need to start suing people who lie about ACP. Having ACP slandered as Nosballs in every socialist subreddit, literally, by the way, is a problem. Yes, and we're building our legal team, for when people make actual libelous statements. There's an ongoing case right now that I probably shouldn't get into at all. against some of the most ridiculous, slanderous lies that people. But yeah, some of these are literally actionable. A lot of them, because we are just regular Marxist-Leninists. These people who claim to be Marxist-Leninists or Marxists, have to lie about what we say and do in order to smear us as evil. So some of those things, you actually could take these people to court. The problem is the legal system doesn't reward justice; it rewards money. That's how it works. So we need to build up our resources, build up our legal team, which we're in the process of doing, and cook a few of these motherfuckers, and then maybe it would scare people from lying so much. But yeah, I agree. We got to fight it on every battlefield that we can, in the courts, in the streets, the streets.
New York, New York.
New York, New York. What's happening, baby?
Shut down this incompetent criminal enterprise. By golly.
Rest in peace. Rest in peace. He's in heaven with you, Joe, now.
I have to put Becker up there at some point.
Oh my god. Yeah, we got to get a new Brian Becker one.
Yeah. Where's the one that I'm looking for?
Based.
This is based. This is one of.
Hey, I Bele Valali.
If you're spreading slander about the ACP, just know that Big Chris is watching you.
Oh my god. I am so excited that Chris is on social media now.
It's so great.
He couldn't do it before because of his teaching job, but now when people get to know Chris, he's gonna go so fucking viral. He's the funnest guy to fucking be around. One of the funniest people. Him and Haas are fucking hilarious, by the way.
Yeah.
You guys are gonna love him in every episode of Metal Gear Red, and his social media is gonna pop off. I have no fucking doubt.
Speaking of which, I'm sure most of you have checked this out already. But we now have a podcast. People have been asking for a podcast for years, and they've been asking for a Midwestern Marx infrared media collaboration for years, and we brought you 2 in 1. We started a podcast with our infrared comrades, an explicitly ACP podcast. It's more chill and laid back than, a lot of our other content where we're just delivering the news or theory to you. So it's fun to watch, but also extremely informative, obviously. On the American Communist Party YouTube channel, all you got to do is search Metal Gear Red. Even if you search Metal Gear Solid, our podcast is one of the first things that comes up, at least for me, along with a bunch of video game videos. So make sure you check that out. Like, comment, subscribe, boost it in the algorithm. We'll be coming at you again this Friday, where we break down all the VJ stuff and PSL stuff with our comrades there. It should be extremely fun. By the way, I forgot about this one. Morena secretly ML. Yeah, some Mexican communists told me that their party program is basically the same as the Communist Party of Mexico's was back when they were fighting in the mountains. So pretty based.
Yo, if you're gonna watch the podcast, it's not for the weak of stomach. There's politically incorrect jokes. It's good. It's a little bit of an in on what like ACP culture is like. So
very true.
If you like it and if you found it fun, join the ACP. If you're troubled by it, like Haas said in a recent clip on TikTok, we don't want you.
We don't want you.
Darn.
If you don't laugh once at the podcast, if you're offended by it, you're probably not going to be much use in the revolution anyways. But if you could take a joke, check out the podcast and join the ACP immediately.
And if you think you hate us and you watch it and you laugh, go see a therapist, because there's something that's not clicking, and you're meant to be with us.
Your therapist will help sort that out. Thank you.
The therapist is going to be Chris Alali in a suit, and the badge is going to say "Collector of Strange Things," and you're going to go on about your life, and he's just going to show you like a random bust of some shit.
That's great, comrade. Look at these medals I have from the DPRK.
I have the femur from Alexander the Great. Here, look at it.
I bought it from the same lady who sold me Epstein's Black Book. She was completely insane, comrade. SB, thank you for the 5. We need to start suing. Oh, we already covered that one. Sorry.
Those another
Luis
5.
Garza again. Thank you. You think you can do a deep dive on Mexico and Mexican humanism soon?
I have something here.
Go
We're
for
going to
it.
be featuring either in this issue or the next one of Red America, an article, interview article with Oscar, our comrades over there, one of the leading economists in Mexico. He does all of the political economy schools for Morena, full communist, absolutely loves us. And he's described Mexican humanism, which is the official philosophy of Mexico, as basically what we're trying to do with American communism for the ACP, or American Marxism, right? I talked with him on my book, Why We Need American Marxism. And he's like, this is what Morena's Mexican humanism basically is for Mexico. So he's going, in the interview, everything that I ask him is basically in line with these sorts of questions, asking him to unfold on the fourth transformation process, on Mexican humanism, and all these types of topics. So subscribe to the journal if you haven't already. That's a good place to see more info on that. But I have trouble not calling it like Marxism-Leninism with Mexican characteristics, you know.
Interesting. Yeah, check out the journal, everyone. My article was recently published too, the one that I spent months and months on, that will eventually be a series. So buy it if you want to get into these deeper questions of Marxism and stick with the series. Michelle, Vincent Corbeau, longtime follower, now a member for 9 months. Let's go. Congratulations, comrade. Thank you for your steady and constant support. I may be late, but I'm here. Stand with the ACP. Great to see y'all once again. I always like the stream, by the way. Thank you, brother, and thank you to everybody who liked and shared the stream. That helps us beat the algorithmic suppression that we face. I'm pretty sure YouTube just gives our views away to Sam Cedar and the Majority Report. Like, they take views from us and give it to them. So we appreciate all of you for liking the stream and for being a member, of course. Joey, thank you for the 5, Joey. Appreciate you. This is very true. Kyle's jokes are more hardcore than the Red Metal Gear Red podcast. Reminds me of some of the jokes I made back when I still played the Yankee Tanky. Very true. Kyle is hilarious.
I would have paid money to be able to hang out with Joey and Kyle when he passed by over there. It must have been, the jokes must have been great.
I wish I could have been there. I got to go to, I've never been to Pennsylvania, or maybe like passing through, but never spent an extended amount of time there, seen Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. So I would love to see those 2 big cities and hang out with Joey and do some organizing work. Haas is going to talk some serious smack about Brian Becker. He is. Where's this? Eddie, a prank called to PragerU would be a great idea for a future stream. It's much safer than calling the Department of Justice, which I almost did on the last stream. For those of you who were there, I almost prank called the Department of Justice before ChatGPT told me that it was a crime. But PragerU does have a phone number. I would love to prank call them. So that will definitely be a segment. Should I do it today?
Yeah.
All right.
That'll be good.
Right now.
By the way, I hope we get to hear some of the accents that our comrades have perfected for the podcast. We film it Friday. It's going to come out Sunday, but you guys are in for a treat if Haas approaches a critique of VJ in the way that I think he's going to approach the critique of VJ.
I'm going to grab my phone. Keep going.
But Jackson just responded to VJ. I haven't seen it. Let me check what it is. I know that he had commented in the post that VJ made, but let me see what it is that Jackson replied.
All right.
Jackson supposedly replied to VJ. Let me see what the hell he replied.
Jackson, he just said he got the call.
Oh, yeah, I had seen that. I had seen that already.
All right. I wonder. Hold on, my iPad. I want to call him from my iPad so I can put it on speaker here. Malumbo popped up right away. Good-looking man. Oh, no homo. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Let's see here.
It looks like he's having fun. I think he's in Poland.
He lives an exciting life. All right, Prager, you sons of bitches.
I really hope Dennis Prager answers. Fireside chat.
Is it working? Calling using your iPhone? Oh, I got to turn my Wi-Fi on.
He had a fireside chat about like. I'm not gonna say it because maybe if it's not true, I can get sued. So I'm not gonna say it. But I don't remember
Is
what
it
it was.
about-
It was something so out of pocket. That it was,
How his wife needs to sleep with him? He did
yes.
one of
Yeah. He was like,
that
yeah.
was real. Yeah, no, that happened.
Oh my god.
Super weird. He was like, his wife must have not been giving him any action or something. He's like, I need to bring this to YouTube. Like, conservative women need to have sex with their marshmallow-looking rich husbands like me. It's so creepy.
The category of the closeted gay lives in the American conservative movement. It died for
does.
most of the rest of America when it just became like normal for people to be publicly gay, but it still lives in the American conservative movement. Ben Shapiro, the dude doesn't even sleep in the same room as his wife.
He doesn't?
No, he doesn't.
He admitted this?
Yeah, he made a tweet that his kid thought of something, and then he went into his dad's room, and then he went into the mom's room while they were sleeping, and asked them both. And the tweet implied that they don't sleep in the same room.
What is going on with these conservatives? The nuclear family. That's all these people are grifters, folks. None of them believe what they say.
Thank you for calling Prager University Foundation. Please listen carefully to the following menu items so we can best respond to your request. To make a donation by phone, please press 1.
For money, by the way.
To update your recurring donation with us, please press 2.
Both options are money so far.
For our mailing address,
They
please
need
press
more.
3. To be removed from our mailing list, please press 4. If you would like a tax acknowledgement sent to you, please press
How
5.
many billionaires get tax write-offs on their
For
donations?
all other general inquiries, please press 6. To replay, thank you for supporting PragerU. Please leave us a message with your name and contact information, and we will get back to you. For any general inquiries related to donations not covered above, please leave a message or email donate@prageru.com.
Let me leave a message.
For any general questions
I
not
got it.
related
Let me
to
leave it.
donations, please email info@prageru.com. Thank you. Press 1 to repeat these instructions. Press 2 to leave a voicemail.
Hey, my name is Eddie Liger. I'm a political commentator who really wants to work for you guys. Or I could just donate a ton of money to your organization, but I'm gonna need you to do something for me first. There's this Cuban guy who keeps running around outside my house. I've never talked to him, but I just know from the way he looks that he's here illegally. So I know that you guys have connections to the Trump administration and ICE. If you could sick them on this Cuban guy outside my house, I'm pretty sure he's a communist too. So if you deport him, I tell you what, you can have all the money in my bank account right now. So help a brother out.
Start the hashtag deport Carlos movement.
What were you gonna say?
Oh, I was gonna tell him I am a disabled brown man who is overcoming the woke virus, and I would like to work for PragerU.
That would have been good.
They would have hired me.
They would have. They would have been like, holy cow, a brown racist. Just what we needed. A brown white supremacist. Oh, man. All right. Sorry, Carlos. I hope they don't deport you. MLs in the 21st century should prioritize supporting anti-imperialist states. rather than fighting the lost battle with labor aristocracy here at home. Well, that doesn't make any sense because the only way, thank you for that donation, but the only way to fight imperialism is by raising up the working class here at home. That's the core discovery of Marxism, is that class struggle is the engine of history. So there's no entity in America that can topple the American empire and the American government besides the American working class. And in fact, they're perfectly positioned to do so. And this has always been, the Marxist position on the workers in imperialist countries. The labor aristocracy is a theory worth analyzing, but it's not like a block on class struggle. It's not a theory that says class struggle can never happen here. So it's just a defeatist mindset to say, we can't do anything here at home. Our workers are too reactionary. Class struggle is the only thing that can end imperialism.
That's Marcuse's theory. Marcuse writes in Soviet Marxism that Lenin's problem was that he thought the labor aristocracy was just the top half of the upper echelons of the labor movement, that it's actually the whole working class in the West. And that's why, the idea that the proletariat is a revolutionary subject in advanced capitalism has to be completely rethought. And that's a book that was funded and promoted by the Russia Institute in Columbia, and by the Rockefeller Foundation, whom he thanks in the preface of the book. So,
absolutely. E.R. Silva, you did what? Thank you, E.R. Silva. I didn't know that prank calling PragerU would get me a $50 super chat, but thank you, brother. That is extremely generous. Appreciate you. I'm glad we could make you laugh.
If we do streams earlier, we should do more prank calls. That'd be good.
That would, dude. We should call like every conservative outlet that we can. I wonder if the Daily Wire.
Jinx. Yep. The script should be the same. I'm a brown disabled man looking to work for your institution. I love Israel. Israel has never committed human rights violations. It's the most moral, diaper-wearing army on the planet. And Benjamin Netanyahu deserves the Nobel Peace Prize. Instantly hired.
Instant hire. Yeah, I don't know that.
The PSL is going to clip that and be like, look at what the ACP leaders think.
I don't know if PragerU puts their number out there. Daily Wire. Do you guys know how easy it is to be a conservative propagandist, though? Like that guy Cam Higbee, who I debated on Jubilee. I made a post about him today. Like, that guy is not a good speaker. He had like a panic attack on Fox News once, and Jackson like was torturing him with it, roasting him with it, and he's like tried to play victim like a leftist, like, how dare you attack me at a time when my mental health was bad, and blah blah blah. He is so weak. I swear to God, you guys, I'm not making this up. I would not make this up. I don't like that guy, Cam, because his friend like tried to dox me and get me fired. And I told him that when we were there behind the scenes at Jubilee, and everyone else was like, yo, what the hell's wrong with your friend? Even the conservative people were like, what the hell? And then there were times where I was just sitting there and I would just stare at him. I would look him in the eyes and he would literally like that and look at the ground. And he's like, has no muscle definition, is built like a marshmallow. It's such a weak person. And like, he's going up in conservative media. They see him as like a rising star because he's willing to say anything. He's willing to be a mouthpiece for genocide. Like, if there's somebody willing to pay Cam Higbee money, he's going to take it to say whatever the hell they want. And that's all you have to do. You don't have to be talented. You don't have to be a backbone. You don't have to be any kind of real journalist. Just post on your social media that I went to Israel. They paid for it. They're not committing a genocide. I saw it firsthand, blah, blah, fucking blah. And look, you're rich and famous and you can live a cushy life. And that's why we have so many sellout opportunists like Cam Higbee in this sphere, in this world, because it's that easy to fucking sell out and chase the money. And then you'll live comfortably for the rest of your life. I don't know how you sleep at night, right? I don't know how you are going to be able to face God when you die. But some people are willing to do that to have luxury, personal luxury.
Dude, please do it. Yeah.
People's Republic of Highland.
I'm dying to go back, man. It's It's
I
almost
was
like a
there.
birthright. It's a birthright trip for me to go back to Hialeah. That's what it is.
I was there more recently than you. That's crazy.
No, I would have never thought. I got to go back.
The people I met there were awesome too. Shout out to Hialeah.
Yeah, I mean, they're like, it's weird because they're super anti-communist. Although we have, I think, concentrated in the area around Hialeah, it's one of the most ACP populated areas around the country, which is insane. We have a bunch of comrades in Hialeah, but there's a bunch of anti-communists. But because they're Cuban, there's like this more basic and foundational level of like social solidarity where it's like so easy to get along with people. And I do miss it, you know. I try to perform the phenomenological epoche and just remove the anti-communism and just enjoy the sort of Cuban iconography and shit, and it feels like home.
Absolutely. Someone said Jackson dropped a nuke. I don't know if I saw it. I might have already. Oh, no, he did post something new. Let's see here. We'll cover the other super chats here in a second. Appreciate all the super chats we're getting today, by the way. This is great. I got to go off more often. We got to bring out Dark Liger Predator Animal more often, rather than all these titles. What?
I don't see the nuke.
I didn't see it at first, but I'll pull it up on the screen here. You have to go to his replies. VJ, I also regret hosting this conversation as I was under the impression that you were a free thinker and didn't let the whims of billionaire-funded NGOs dictate your political thought. As you stated in our conversation, my work with the American Communist Party is not to spread vitriol, but to instead organize workers, truckers, nurses, sanitation workers, teachers, and more, facilitate disaster relief efforts in the U.S., organize against imperialist wars, and establish a disciplined, educated, and powerful Communist Party in the tradition of progressive American history. Boom. That is a nuke. You weren't trapped into this conversation. You agreed to this interview almost a month before filming and were sent the topics ahead of time as per your request. Nothing was malicious about this interview. I didn't interrupt you once. I let you answer the questions at length, and after the interview, you even said you enjoyed the conversation and wanted to grab dinner in Moscow next time you visited. What changed? Holy shit, bro.
Oh, man.
Oh, man. This is a complete nuke, you guys. Why are you feigning outrage about the questions that I asked you, a 58-year-old man now? It's so true, bro. It's so true. When you were very pleased with them during the interview, you correctly pointed out that it is categorically wrong for American leftists to condemn socialist, anti-imperialist countries like North Korea, Nicaragua, Venezuela, Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger, and China for having conservative cultural policies and views. To clarify your positions, I'll ask you a few more questions. Why did you regurgitate NATO and Ukrainian Nazi propaganda when stating nothing justifies Russia's invasion? I condemn the invasion. This Russian war must end. Do you uphold and support the Islamic revolution in Iran, Korean socialism, and socialism in the Sahel and South America? Or do you think these revolutionaries should be condemned for not waving LGBT flags? I await your reply unless Singham and Becker got your tongue.
Damn.
Repost.
It's an unacceptable tweet reply because he didn't add the Q after LGBT.
Yep, he forgot.
That's what the important part in what he said.
They're gonna cancel him. You're marginalizing queer voices, Jackson. Wow. I don't even know what else to say besides that. You know, and that it shows. It's crazy that VJ wanted to have dinner with them. Like, it's so spineless of him to say something like that and then attack Jackson publicly because these rich Fabian socialists asked him to, these Marxist and Leninists, when you know VJ would like to be an actual Marxist-Leninist and, you know, shed off these people. There's a few things where I disagree with VJ, like he's overly, he's a little bit naive about the UN and so-called international law. He's a little bit too favorable towards the non-aligned movement, not as critical of them as I think that maybe he should be. But other than that, he would like to be, you know, a staunch, traditional Stalinist-style Marxist-Leninist, but he's held captive by the Becker family or Neville Roy Singham, this Chinese billionaire who funds VJ and the PSL and a lot of these voices. It's opportunism. It's the same kind of. It's not as bad, but it's similar to the kind of opportunism that a guy like Cam Higbee does. You're just selling out to counter-revolutionary forces that masquerade as being left-wing, rather than explicitly telling you that what they are, that they're counter-revolutionary. So this is incredible. Yeah, it's interesting that he shared that personal interaction that they had. It reminds me of something else that's going on right now. I don't need to get into the details. If you want to know more of the details, you can go in the Midwestern Marks Discord. All I'll say is there is a Bree 2.0 running around, a scorned wannabe Liger lover who is shitting on the ACP because I didn't want to hang out with them, and I have a girlfriend, so. You can just try to guess who that is next time you see some ACP hate on X. You can try to guess which one is the scorned wannabe lover. Carlos saying the institution like Haas. Thank you, Joey. Appreciate you, brother. Bragger, you also had an option for being given their mailing address. Y'all should get that too and mail them something interesting. Yes, thank you, Michelle. You know what we should do? I always get these advertisements on TikTok. They're advertisements for these fake brochures that you can buy. Like if you have a friend who's a big Trump supporter, you can send them one like, thank you for voting for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Or you can send one that says, thank you for booking your trip on this gay cruise. And it's like a huge LGBTQ flag. And it says, your $1,000 payment has been processed. You will now be going on this gay cruise. I'm going to send one of those brochures to Dennis Prager saying, you have been approved for a gay cruise.
By the way, to clarify, it's Indian billionaire, not Chinese.
Oh, Singham's Indian?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Have you seen him?
Yeah. He doesn't look
He
Chinese.
doesn't look Chinese.
He was like Uyghur or something. I don't know. No, he's definitely an
That's
Indian
fair.
guy.
That's fair. Yeah.
Think about it.
That's fair.
Whatever. If he wants to fund us, I'll take it though. But we're not gonna fucking say whatever he wants us to say. He's got to give us money and piss off. SP. We'll just get unlimited money from the super chats today. It seems like, holy shit, people keep sending them in. Thank you. One person literally keeps posting the Brandon Torres ACP slander video in all the left subreddits and even r/Cino. We can't be on the defense all the time. Yeah, that's it's crazy how dedicated these people are. And it's like, if you guys put a fucking fraction of this energy towards actually advancing the class struggle and not just shitting on us for doing the work that you should be doing on fucking Reddit all day, if you actually went out in the streets and used some of this energy for good, America would be in a way better place right now. The class struggle would be at a way more elevated place, but you convince yourselves that you're revolutionaries by spam posting about the ACP on Reddit. If that's even a real person, it's probably a fucking Fed bot or something. But
yeah, look, we would be foolish to think that they're not going to continue spreading rumors and lies and acting in this way. And we can spend some level of attention debunking their smears and fighting back against it. But at some point, we have to say that's going to be a part of our growth. What we should focus on is showing people that we're a party that they want to be in, that we're a party that's actually getting stuff done, that we're fun, that they're not going to come in and be miserable and have to hold their tongues and walk on eggshells or anything like that. The ACP and its party culture, it's basically the culture of Americans, except with an advanced class consciousness, with an advanced communist consciousness that's aware of how the system works and how we fight against it and all this other good stuff. But we are just basically normal people, normal American people. We have the same level of vulgarity, and it is what it is. We're not. You're not going to find the culture of DSA, which all of that is a culture of HR. That's why it's an NGO, PMC left. It's not left at that point. It's completely alienating to working class because it reminds them of the culture of the HR and DEI departments. And those are the institutions of the manager class. And remember that the managerial class are the ones that the working class most immediately see in their workplace. And the antagonism against capital, the first one that they see in the flesh is not big capital, the real owners and everything like that. They see the managers, the bitches of capital, the one that uphold the interests of capital. And if your socialism has the culture of the people who the working class most immediately sees as their enemy, and you want to be surprised why they don't want to touch you with a 10-foot pole, I mean, it's foolish. Come on.
Absolutely. Sorry, Kevin says, how can I donate money directly to you with no deductions? Patreon is the best way. Patreon.com/MidwesternMarks, or send it to our PayPal, which is, I believe, is linked still on the Midwestern Marks front page if you scroll to the bottom. But Patreon takes only like 5%. That's definitely the best way to do it. You can give as much as you want. You could give like $50 this month and then cancel your subscription for next month if you just wanted to do a one-time donation. I have a Buy Me a Coffee too. You could do that on our link tree. I think our PayPal might be on our link tree too. I'm not sure, but that's what I would recommend. I appreciate you for asking, because as much as we love all the super chats and appreciate those, YouTube does take a brutal 30% of your money. So you're also giving money to the corporate overlords when you do that, unfortunately, and you'll give much less if you do it through Patreon. So that's why we love all our Patreon supporters. And that's a more consistent way to help the project too. You can give like $10 a month. Again, not to say we don't love all the super chats and want people to keep doing those. And I know people like to have their comments read live on stream, so that's why some people prefer to super chat. So if you want that function, if you want us to read your comment live on stream, super chat is the best way to do so. But if you want to donate to our project without having your money taken, Patreon and PayPal are the best ways to do so. Thoughts on DDP and Kamzat? I think my TikToks that I made about it are blowing the hell up, and getting a bunch of views and you're generating revenue for the party too. I'm definitely going to still be posting MMA content on my second TikTok account at Edby Liger, I think, or at Eddie Liger, 77 kg, maybe my Greco weight class, my wrestling weight class. But either way, Khamzat Chimaev is levels and levels above the rest of the division in wrestling, and that's because he is from Chechnya, which is not only a country that's been torn apart by civil war with very much U.S. involvement on the side of the jihadists against Russia, but it's also the home of the most Russian wrestling Olympians and stuff. So if American and non-Russian fighters want to start winning again, they're really going to have to learn how to wrestle, because in Dagestan and Chechnya, they're mass producing animals and they start training them from basically birth. So y'all better get in the wrestling room if you want to start winning UFC belts in America again. You can donate directly you can donate to ACP on the website as well. Yeah, good point, Joey.
Yep. If I can become a union leader, would that be a good resume for the ACP? The way the ACP works is that we don't really need a resume. We ask you a few questions when you apply, and you start as a reserve, which means that you're basically getting tested to see if you're capable of being cadre. You're a member, but you don't have the privileges that cadre has. And if you prove yourself in actions to be worthy of being a cadre, you get moved up by the chapter executive, the leader of your local cell. So it's not just us arbitrarily deciding who passes or who doesn't. It's the people that are looking at you work on the ground and who decide, is it worth this person becoming a cadre or staying as a reserve? So there's no resume that goes into that process, and consider joining.
And definitely become a union leader if you can, though. Glasses, you have to break them now, Carlos. The chairman demands it. Glasses wearers can never lead the party.
That's why Eddie took them off. And since Eddie took them off, I was like, I'm going to put them on.
I smashed mine with a giant sledgehammer, like I'm Pol Pot. Just destroyed them.
Realistically, you stand in front of a computer for long enough without some of these blue light glasses, you're going to get a fucking migraine.
That's true. I haven't been on the computer all day today. For once, I haven't been on my iPad and the computer doing work today, so I'm all right, but you're correct about that.
And according to Ray Pete, they they fuck up your metabolism. If you get the
Yeah.
screen time without the glasses, your metabolism gets fucked up.
That's true. My brother and my brother-in-law have like a red screen on their phones to get rid of all the blue light. They say when they take the red screen off now, it like hurts their brain and eyes. But I just have superior genes. I destroy blue light with my natural eyes because they're so powerful. Eddie, I am a current active duty service member. I try my best to teach fellow service members about ideology and imperialism. You're very sociable, so I ask, how would you recommend I connect with service members and get them in the party? I don't think there's any revolutionary potential without military might. I completely agree. And you just have to be sociable. You have to understand how to reach people and meet them where they're at. I just treat service members normally. I don't trash them and call them pieces of shit and servants of the empire for being in the military when they were preyed on by some recruiter when they were 18. And I have a lot of like even military influencer friends on TikTok who are mutuals with me and like my videos, and they'll message me. I've had literal, big military influencers with hundreds of thousands of followers message me and say, great work with the ACP. I love how you guys are cleaning up America and, calling out these endless wars. You can really get a lot of them on the issue of imperialism. You can explain, what the U.S. is actually fighting for and how you're being used as pawns, usually once you have a better relationship with them. And in my experience, a lot of them are really intuitive with that because they see it firsthand. So I would hit on the issue of imperialism. That might seem counterintuitive because they're technically serving the empire, but a lot of them signed up to defend their country and got thrown into pillaging other countries on behalf of the empire. So you can point that out to them.
The rates of people that are in the army that are against war is much higher than it is in the general population. So it's such a ripe sector for organizing. And we have quite a few very important members in the party that are veterans and are in the armed forces. And, I'll let you guys figure it out for yourself, the importance of having people like that in a revolutionary organization.
Yep. Richard Spencer and Vijay Prashad attacking us on Twitter in the same day. Coincidence? I think not. Maybe the Beckers called up Richard Spencer and said, attack the ACP. We need to kill them in their cradle. What an unholy alliance, the fake communists and the fascists. This is why Ernst Thälmann was right. This is why he was the goated German communist. He called these people social fascists, not that's not exactly descriptive of Vijay and what he is, but these fake leftists who side with the fascists like Richard Spencer against the Marxist-Leninist communists, the Stalinist communists. I'm not even going to put quotes around Stalinist anymore because Stalinism, I feel like, has become a very real thing in the modern era. You have these, we're Marxists and Leninists, and then you have no, we're Marxist, Leninist, Stalinist, fuck you. And that's us. How does socialization, temperament, personality, attitude play a role in good, effective cadre and organization? Great question, Starside, and thank you for the super chat. It's extremely important. I didn't think it was that important at the beginning. I thought what was important was theory and basically being like a robot. And I didn't think I would be able to translate all the things I had learned about how to live a good life and how to work hard and how to build the team culture from wrestling. I didn't know that would translate to left-wing politics because, I was like, we have to just be accepting of everybody and sort of liberal leftist brained at first. But now that we're actually in the process of doing party work, it's extremely important. A cadre who's able to talk to people and socialize is so much more effective in an organizing setting than a cadre who spends all day on Reddit, so they struggle to talk to people face to face. We don't have a lot of those in the ACP, but people who have spent time in other left-wing organizations, exactly what I'm talking about with that. A lot of these are a social club for the antisocials, for the people who struggle to talk to others who disagree with them, who have no ability to talk to regular people about communism and stand on business and just explain what they believe. Not being a hothead is important. I mean, you do need to use that sort of rage and keep that rage towards the system and towards the counter-revolutionaries. Like, there's nothing wrong with keeping that alive, but you have to be able to control it. And then attitude is freaking everything in life, right? It's hard to do something consistently if you have a bad attitude about it. If you're dreading doing the work and thinking, I have to do this, rather than tricking yourself and saying, I get to do this work. I'm taking that from Nori from the media team. We were talking about the kind of team culture that we want to have in the media department the other day. And she said, everyone needs to have the attitude that I get to do this for the party. It's not something I'm forced to do or that I have to do. And that's exactly it. And that will change the work that you do. That will change how much you enjoy work. It's not like we're idealists who think that you can change the world, by thinking. But if you have a positive attitude that's combined with positive actions, it's going to increase the effectiveness of your actions and increase how much you enjoy doing things. I mean, that's definitely something I learned from wrestling. I used to dread going to wrestling practices, if you can believe that. It's my favorite thing in the world now. But when I was in middle school, I wanted to play video games like any middle schooler. And then one day I realized, well, I like competing in wrestling, so I'm going to have to go to practice. I might as well just tell myself it's fun and tell myself that I enjoy it and try to look forward to it when I do it. And then I did. I started loving it and, looking forward to every single practice, no matter how hard they were going to have us work that day. And that changes a lot at a personal level. So temperament, personality, and attitude, all extremely important. And they're all things that we actively and consciously try to build up in our cadre. If we do have a society that isolates us and, kind of tells us to just play video games and be on Reddit all day and not try to actually achieve anything, be nihilistic. And we try to break that attitude. No, let's go outside and talk to the workers. And this is something Carlos and I learned from the Bernie campaign too. If you go up and force yourself to talk to people and have conversations with them, you just get better at it and you get more comfortable doing it. And that social anxiety kind of goes away. It's like exposure therapy. So these are things that you can train. They're not things that are stagnant, which is another liberal myth that everyone's just born a certain way and that can't change or develop at all. You can develop these skills, and we try to within the party consciously.
And we do, yeah. That's one of the things I was going to say. I've been able to interact with people who I interacted with, cadre who I interacted with at the beginning of the party and who I interact with now. And it's almost like they're two completely different people. They've become so sociable, so easy to talk to random people or even to people that are in the party themselves. At the beginning, everyone was very icky and very cautious and very introverted. Now, look, don't go out and be a tryhard, because people feel and they intuit when you're being a tryhard and you're trying too hard to be cool. But being cool, being sociable is a very positive trait. It's an extremely positive trait. I saw it in person with the Bernie organizing. The fact that Eddie was sort of a jock, except without the absence of jock brain that is usually archetypical in that in that archetype. The fact that he was cool, he won fucking so many people over. And the day that we had like the actual voting, there was literally dozens and dozens of people that wouldn't have been there that were there just because of how sociable and cool. It's kind of cringy to talk about it, but how cool Eddie was to these people that they looked at him as someone that, if he's doing this, man, I should too. And that's how we should be. I say this very often, that you should embody the sort of person from the future that communism wants to build. Part of that is being sociable. You should try to be like Phil from Groundhog Day, where the whole fucking community loves him by the end of the day, because he's a Chad. He's like helps everyone. He's able to play music. He reads. He helps the community. He helps old lady. He becomes a hell of a lot more attractive to women. And he's just the person that everyone in the community loves because he gets stuff done. He helps people and he's competent. That's what we need to become as communists. And that's how we attract people. When in our very being and how it is that we are and how we carry ourselves, people are able to see, okay, these people are composed of a new type of human material that's far superior, that brings stuff around it into its orbit. And that's how communists have to be. That's the sort of aura that someone like Che Guevara had. That's the sort of aura that someone like Fidel Castro had. They literally sent a woman to kill him, and he ended up sleeping with her. That's the aura you need to have as a communist. He went out during the Maleconazo in '94, when people were protesting in the street against Fidel, he went out with no security. The same people that were protesting against him ended up turning around and elevating Fidel Castro posters and marching with him. He turned an anti-government rally into a pro-government rally just by fucking showing up. And you do that when you become that sort of human that people can intuit just by being around you. Man, there's something special here.
Yeah, I don't want to compare myself to them yet. That's what I aspire to be like one day. But I'll never forget one of my friends who's a hardcore Trump supporter, blue collar guy, a multiple time All-American in wrestling, very good wrestler. I wasn't even trying to convince him to caucus for Bernie because I knew that he was a Republican. But in the 2016 primaries, in a year where Trump was running in the Republican primaries, or no, it would have been 2020. So I don't think there was a Republican primary that year because Trump was already the elect. But either way, this guy showed up to caucus, and I was like, "What are you doing here?" He's like, "I'm voting for Bernie." I'm like, "Are you serious? You're a Trump supporter?" He's like, "Yeah, but he told me, I know if you're fighting for this, then it's something worth fighting for," basically, which it was the Bernie campaign. So maybe he had too much faith in me there. But basically that was, he knew that I showed up every day, worked my ass off, and was a good leader and respectful to my teammates, a good leader of our college wrestling team. And because he respected me on the personal level and the way he had seen me live my life day to day, he knew that he could trust me on the political level. And of course, when Bernie fizzled out, he went right back to being a Trump supporter, which shows the overlap, between socialist politics and Trump's politics, because Trump was promising to fight for him and his family at the time. So I don't blame him at all. But these are people who could be won over by a communist movement, who are never going to be won over by something like the PSL or one of these democratic socialist movements. He's exactly the kind of proletarian who can be won over with real Marxist-Leninist politics. But that's an example. And this is why I think it's interesting. One of the things Haas was saying on the last Metal Gear Red podcast, or the first Metal Gear Red podcast, is like, it is identity politics in a way, as Carlos says. Like the primary contradiction for these people is identity politics, not anti-imperialism, like they say. That's 100% true. But there's also something else there, like on the level of vibes and on the level of the personal, where these people sense that we are, I hate to say it, but like sociable and jocks and just kind of normal, right? And maybe leaders in our communities that aren't political communities, right? Leaders of wrestling communities and local communities and our philosophy club at school or whatever. We're people who are, respected by the people who know us. And we're not part of this isolated left-wing social group where, other leftists who agree with us on everything are our only friends. And that scares them. They're territorial. This is why I'm calling them gatekeepers of their own social club. Because on the very level of vibes, people who look like me and Haas and Jackson and Carlos and Noah scare them. And they think that we are infringing on their turf. We're bringing impure people into their little social club, and they're trying to gatekeep it, trying to kick those people out. And that's why it's only a matter of time, though, before our movement grows and theirs starts to disintegrate. If you can even call what they do a movement, it's more of a pyramid scheme. But that's going to start to disintegrate, and we're going to win more and more and more people over, regular people, normal people, competent people, people who are already looked at highly and are already respected in their local communities, not like these antisocial leftists who turn to leftism because they need a social group, because they need a friend group like Black Red Guard or whatever. It's on the level of vibes that they're scared of us. And it's on the personal level that they have this disdain for us in many ways. It is the identity politics, but they're almost not even principled enough to actually, have that position. It's more just this personal fucking pettiness. Oh, these jocks are coming into our PMC glasses wearing leftist movements and telling mean, offensive jokes, and we need to kick them out. It's like, no, Marxism is not the fucking nerds club. It's not a social club. We're not supposed to gatekeep Marxism so we can have our own little friend group that we get to control from the top down. Marxism is a science of the movement of history that becomes a weapon once grasped and understood by the proletariat. And we plan to spread that ideology to the proletariat, not gatekeep it from them like you. And that's why we're growing faster. And you've been stagnant at the same amount of membership for the last however many years. You win the same amount of votes in the presidential election every year and act like the revolution is coming.
You know what's crazy, Eddie? It's been like 6 years. But all that has happened is that we have refined stuff that we were already able to intuit 6 years ago. You remember the little Iowa University Socialist Club meetings that we used to do? I think you attended one of them, but we had like 3 in total or something. There was such a, I mean, if you look at it through this framework of vibes, there was 2 vibes. There was us, which were there just chilling. We went out afterwards. We had some pints. We had fun. We had a certain attitude. We had a certain method of wanting to do things where what mattered to us was actually starting to get work done. And then there was this other vibe that came in with a Ziploc bag filled with pronouns, threw the Ziploc bag around to people so that they could pick what they wanted to put on their shirt, and was concerned, it's just pure formalism, was just concerned with names, what were we going to call the organization, what were we going to do this, who was going to have priority with what event, and what what marginalized individual is going to have, and it was a completely different vibe. And all we have seen over the last 6 years is that fissure that existed within the Bernie movement itself has led to these 2 different routes. It led to the sort of PSL, DSA, social fascism, or to communism and ACP, MAGA communism.
For sure. Would ACP members ever run for mayor if we could win? Absolutely, which probably isn't too far off in some of these towns. I don't know, man. The mayoral race where I'm from and where Carlos used to live is really close this year. You have like a standard Republican. You have this liberal Democrat who, the positions that he was a professor at our college, and I can't believe some of the positions that he takes given what he actually taught in his classroom. His ideals don't match up with his actions. But you got that guy, and then you have like this crazy QAnon lady. And I'm like, shit, maybe I should run. I know I would have at least 45 wrestlers from my club who would fucking vote for me. At least I know the people who know me personally in the community, which is a lot of them, would vote for me. I've had so many people tell me, like, I don't know about communism, but would just tell me when you run for president, I'll vote for you. So, if we can continue to ingrain ourselves in our communities, it's not out of the question. It's not somewhere we want to put resources now because we want to build up the base of support that can allow us to seize political power. That's the priority, and it would take a lot of resources to run for election, but one day that may happen, or the state and the political system will break down and we'll have a civil war before that it even happens, and then we'll just fight our way to the mayor's office. But yeah, what should small chapters do? Recruit. You need manpower. Small chapters should be doing events, even social events. You can do events where you get people together and have like a block party or whatever, as well as these actual more standard organizing events. And you got to talk to people, you got to develop your social skills and your recruiting abilities, and you got to recruit them, just like I recruited for college wrestling teams for years. You just walk up to people, you start conversation with them. They might think you're a little bit weird for a while, but you tell them what you're doing, you get to know them, you get them to respect you, like I said, and then you put a little pressure on them. The better you get to know people, the more you can apply a little bit of pressure to get them in the party. Or maybe start with people you already know. Maybe start with coworkers that you know are already sympathetic, or people in your community who you think might be likely to join a communist party. Start with them and apply a little bit of social pressure, a little bit of peer pressure. It's more powerful than you think. And tell them, are you just going to sit by while America is occupied by these Zionist banks and fucking mega corporations? Or are you going to fight back against it? What kind of world are you going to leave your kids to inherit, right? You can hit on some of these things that get people asking themselves, what am I doing? I know that the system is bankrupt, but You know, what am I using? Am I using my energy and my limited lifeblood to fight against that and leave a better world for my children? You know, you can ask them questions like that once you get to know them a little bit better. You know, you don't want to start with that. But recruitment is the biggest thing for small chapters, especially in small states. Because if you're in a small state, but you get a whole bunch of people in your chapter, you can do a whole hell of a lot.
Yeah, in general, I think recruitment is essential for the party as a whole. Big chapters, small chapters, medium-sized chapters. The party needs to grow. The party needs to grow. And with growth, everything else is just going to continue developing. It's going to be a feedback loop. But we need to focus on growth, and you do that through serving your community and through applying some of the things that we've been talking about here.
Yes. We're going to start winding down here soon. Sorry, I'm typing a message to Anonymous here. But I want to answer this publicly for everybody. I want to join, but I'm not too good on theory. Do you guys offer any classes? Carlos has created a systematic training program for everybody in the party. We do reading groups. We have assigned readings, the classics of Marxism that everyone goes through. You're quizzed on it if you want to elevate from reserve to cadre, right? So not only do we offer classes for all of our cadre to get them theoretically educated, theoretically trained, but we test that knowledge as well, which don't worry about the test though, right? Don't worry about your theoretical knowledge now. If your heart's in the right place and you're willing to work, if you're willing to fight, if you have a rough understanding of what communism is and you want to fight for the working class, just join, right? Because that's what matters most. Your commitment, your energy, and the work that you're willing to do on the ground is what matters most. And then theory is obviously equally important, but we can teach you the theory, right? We can't teach people who don't want to work, who are lazy, who don't want to put in the effort, who are nihilists, to work hard. That's something you kind of have to figure out for yourself. We can encourage you, right? But you have to make that decision to work hard. If you've already made the decision that you want to fight against the ruling class in America and you want to be part of the class struggle, that's all we need. Then we could teach you the theory afterwards, right? But don't feel like you have to be a theoretical expert to enter the party. You'll leave the party. Well, you'll never leave the party, hopefully. But after being in the party, you'll feel like a theoretical expert. I promise. Carlos's education system is very good and very well thought out and very thorough. But if you have energy and a willingness to fight, we want you. We'll get you theoretically educated. Don't even worry about that.
Yeah, I second everything Eddie said. And education, when you do become a cadre and you have your social credit score, education is one small component in the general social credit score that cannot outweigh something like the actual work that you're doing on the ground. It's an important component, you know. But there's other ones that we recognize as more essential for the goals of the party, and those are basically what it is that you're doing on the ground. Are you consistent? Are you showing up all the time? Are you actually putting in the work? And the education is going to come very easily. It's going to come very easily. So don't worry about that. Just join and get to work.
It's exactly why we quantify things through the social credit system, to encourage certain kinds of behavior and show what we value most. What we value most is actually doing the work of class struggle, putting that theory into practice. We also value the theory very highly, and that's why we put so much emphasis on it, and it is extremely important. But, you know, an ounce of practice will always be worth more than a ton of theory. I don't know if that's actually a correct quote, because they work hand in hand. But as Mao said, somebody who only knows theory is just a bookshelf, right? The most important thing is putting it into practice. So that's about all I have for today. Carlos, if you have anything else, go ahead. But Red America, acp.us to join the party. Patreon.com/MidwesternMarx. Am I missing anything? MidwesternMarx.com for our books.
I might have a new class soon. I just started the semester, so I'm going to see how busy my schedule is. Since I finished the PhD work, I need to work more now, basically, to be able to survive financially. So I might end up doing a class sometime soon, but I have to see with the current workload. Eddie wasn't joking when he said 80 hours a week. I have to see if it's doable, and if it is, I'll prepare everything. I was thinking perhaps a class on the young Karl Marx. I had also thought previously of a class on the history of political philosophy. So look out for that. I mean, if you follow us on our socials, you'll get notified whenever I decide to do one or another. But Joey says, if you live in Pennsylvania, please join the ACP. We need more folks to help us do more on-the-ground work in Pennsylvania. Absolutely. It's one of the states that's been the hardest hit by the last 40, 50 years of deindustrialization and neoliberalism and austerity. So it's so ripe for organizing the people.
If you're tired of seeing the jobs flow out of Pennsylvania while the opioids flow in, join the American Communist Party, because we're the only ones who are going to solve that problem, or who even understand that problem at its root. So, Carlos, by the way, Brian Becker told me to say that you're a fascist for working 80 hours a week in poverty. What you should be doing is collecting dues from our members so you can have weird furry parties behind the scenes. So that's real socialism. All right, thanks.
My ass.
All right, thank you everybody for watching. This was an awesome fucking stream. Appreciate all you for chilling with us in the chat and being cool. The badass, fun to hang out with Marxist-Leninists that you are. We'll see you on the next one.
Stand up, victims of oppression, for the tyrants fear your might. Don't cling so hard to your possessions, for you have nothing if you have no rights. Let racist ignorance be ended, for respect makes the empires fall. Freedom is merely privilege extended, unless enjoyed by one and all. So come, brothers and sisters, for the struggle carries on. The International unites the world in song. So comrades, come rally, for this is the time and place. The international ideal unites the human race. Let no one build walls to divide us, walls of hatred nor walls of stone. Come greet the dawn and stand beside us. We'll live together or we'll die alone. In our world poisoned by exploitation, those who have taken, now they must give. And end the vanity of nations, we've but one earth on which to live. So come, brothers and sisters, for the struggle carries on. The International unites the world in song. So comrades, come rally, for this is the time and place. The international ideal unites the human race. And so begins the final drama, in the streets and in the fields. We stand unbowed before their armor, we defy their guns and shields. When we fight, provoked by their aggression, let us be inspired by life and love. For though they offer us concessions, change will not come from above. So come, brothers and sisters, for the struggle carries on. The International unites the world in song. So comrades, come rally, for this is the time and place. The International idea